Mis hijos. Mamá les ama. Mamá les encontrará y traerá a casa nuevamente para que podamos estar juntos para siempre.
Unspeakable crime, murder at midnight. A deal I made, a life I had to take. Someone I loved once held so tight. The screams will follow me, cries of my ancestors said, go away. My offering, fasting in grain, shape-shifting. I feel the animal high inside me. I feel the change. I feel the change coming. We are one but not the same. This form I desire, innocent blood I will devour. Ancestors gathering round the dwelling, the spirit the spirit occupying and transforming stolen heights. Dark practices, my secret life. Feathered outers, mysticism, intriguing. My offering, fasting in grain, shape-shifting. I feel the animal high inside me. I feel the change. I feel the change. Yes, I'm part of the dark creation. My desires performing incantations. I walk in disguise. If I catch you, it's your demise. Shamanism, my religion, summoning spirits, manifesting myself and changing my flesh. A nightmare to behold. I'ma make you part of the fold. The skin of a man, the soul of a predator. The change is complete. This thing I become, my flesh has succumbed. My offering, fasting in grain, shape shifting. I feel the animal hiding by me. I feel the change. I feel the change coming. We are one but not the same.
get this
Apparitions everywhere. Go to sleep with the light on. I wake up paralyzed.
The music is good. The music's great. We're waiting on something. We downloaded another one, but it didn't. It's. I guess it keeps saying that we did it wrong or something. So we're having to.
Yeah, the distributor has like some weird stuff you have to get right, and
Yeah.
I got it right twice, and they're telling me I didn't. So
Anyway, and then the songs with Lyle and Ken are coming along too. We got those going. Got a lot of meetings today, tomorrow. I got 4 of them, and but tonight you're in for a treat. Now, can y'all hear me good? I don't know if you can hear me.
let's see.
The AC's not working real good in here, so we have to have a fan on right now, so it's a little bit rough. So,
Yeah, they can hear you.
getting lazy, didn't want to fix my hair today. Had a lot going on. So Tony backed out of the driveway and smacks parked car.
Yep.
So that was the great start to our night. That's why we were late. We would have been on time if it wasn't for that, but whatever. He wants to tear up and destroy things. It's kind of his thing, right, Tony?
Indeed. Especially his own things. Check this out. This is our new co-host.
She's not new. That's Story.
Well,
she was our first ferret.
Yeah, but as far as being a co-host, she's new.
She's new. I was gonna be.
So be nice to her. She doesn't know what she's doing. I'm still teaching her English. I think she speaks like German or something. But she's learning, Isn't that right, baby girl?
I don't know anything, dude. She speaks Finnish, dude. Jeez. I've told you that before. She's a Laplander.
Oh, okay. Well, my bad. Not all of us can be smart like you, Wolf.
Oh, jeez, man. Let's get it right.
But Story can't you, baby girl?
And that was supposed to be me playing with her and holding her because I've been playing with her all day. Because,
well, then do it.
Because we got, what happened, poor baby. Let me tell you what happened. Story got loose today, and she was trying to hang out with the guinea pigs, weren't you? Weren't you, you sweet little girl? So she was playing with the guinea pigs, and my wife rescued her. But the pig was playing with her too. He was like jumping around, like, "Hey, a new friend," because they have not. Have they met?
Actually, I've been thinking about it. Beanie and
I don't
the
think
pig.
when she plays out in the garage, he doesn't go out there.
Yeah, actually, I don't think they've spent much time.
They haven't really spent much time here. Go play.
Go be a ferret.
You're gonna mess with my. I knew you were. She went straight into the snack bag. She didn't waste no time. Look, there she is. Where's Marmar at? We brought him here to hang out with her, and he's just been crying like a little baby. It's not like he was doing anything at the house anyway. Dude, pick up your feet. He almost yanked the cord out, dude. This guy. Now he's lost the cat. Don't tell me he ran out when you went to the store. It doesn't matter. He'll stand right by that door and cry. He ain't going anywhere from us. Marmar he's a dedicated paratrooper, believe me. He likes to show. Okay, all right. Yep, you're getting into. She's already chewing into one.
Yep. She's not gonna stop. She's relentless.
She's in there. All right, grab this phone. You gotta wrangle this dude. She's getting real. Here, I'll hold him for a minute. What's up, big boy? Martis, can you let go of my? He's clawing my. Okay, buddy. There we go. What are you doing, Martis? There he is. This is Marmar, my big black cat. Look at him. There. Get him. Stick him.
This big black Satanicus cat.
He's Panther. There we go. So
Gear up.
that's Marmar. We brought him to play with her because they play, but instead they just want to get into everything. He wants to get into everything. Now he's interested in the trash cans, and there's nothing in them. What are you doing? He'll find a cricket or something and attack it. He is our pest control, though, at the house. He will take down him. Martis is good, but I think Panzer's the best.
Yeah, him and Panzer have saved my life from many a spider.
They do not play, man. They'll catch flies in midair.
My favorite thing is to just hold Panzer like a shotgun and just aim them toward bugs and let them just swat at them.
Yeah, there was a what was it, a fly or a gnat or something on the ceiling, and we picked him up and put him, and when he got close, he smacked it like, bam. That's what he does, man. So, anyways, they're here hanging out with us in the studio. Yesterday, or was it the day before? Marmar got his tail caught in the door, and it sounded horrific.
Oh, man.
And I was on the phone with the lady from the newspaper, and she was like, "What was that?" And I was like, "The nephew, he's abusing our animals, the cat,
As usual.
because he's like right underfoot, like oh, look, right now." Tony walks from me, he just lays down. He doesn't even care. He's always just right underfoot, just right there. Like if you go out there, he's gonna be, and he loves to get into my study. And Beans is the hat snatcher. I'll say, man, she has destroyed some expensive hats.
She messed up my green and like the desert green PRT hat with the patch. She chewed it up. It's gone.
Like that one?
Oh yeah, like that one. That's a nice hat.
Yeah, she will. Well, Jackie Hall, our animals do. I've killed 2 brown recluses in the guest bathroom now in the last 2 months. So, it sucks. And I'm like watching myself real careful, man. Sometimes my wife, when we have to get ready to do stuff, I'll let her have the main bathroom, and I'll just do my job and go to the other bathroom. And there's spiders in there. I've caught several, but probably about 5 I've killed in the last month and a half.
Yeah.
2 of them were brown recluse. Not good. A big one in the bathtub, and then a smaller one that was under the sink. It was, but it is what it is. What happened? Work.
No, not yet.
Thank goodness.
I'm sure it'll come up during the show, but.
So we're letting the chat fill up a little bit here. Here's what's happening. Okay, so I told you, I don't know if you remember, but I said in June there was a guy he is actually the brother of Shane, who he doesn't live out there anymore. Shane doesn't, but his brother still has that property, and he's trying to sell, I think, or he's going to sell, but it is adjacent to the Hernandez ranch. And now Shane's story was pretty crazy. He actually had to run in with one of these creatures, what we call Dogman. Mm-hmm. And we'll kind of rehash that quickly, and then go on to what happened to his brother. This happened to his brother like 2 years during the pandemic, but his brother has had some legal problems. I'm not going to say too much about his legal problem. His brother's got a weird disposition. We know him as, how would you describe him as, Anthony? Like
Wild child, kind of like the crazy one of the two.
The crazy one. I don't want to say that because I want to.
I mean,
he's a recluse.
not crazy. Okay, not crazy.
He can say it by
fearless,
himself.
Like, fearless. All right.
He don't live by himself, but he
Well, I mean, like he
stays
someone.
on that. Yeah, him and his family stay in a very desolate area.
Yeah,
I wouldn't.
just doesn't need to be interacting with other people.
Yeah, and so I guess Dogman is probably the best. I talked to him a couple days ago, so it's not like I'm not bagging on the guy. I talked to him Friday morning. So, we kind of wrapped up our conversation. But we'll get started here. In the meantime, send your stories to Josh Turner at prtpodcast.com, and then patreon.com prtpodcast, which is the absolute best way to support the show. It's through the Patreon, and the only way right now that you can get autographed books from us. So there's different tiers, $10, $20, $30, $40, $50 tier. $50 tier gets you both of my autographed books plus 2 other books from other authors. $40 tier gets you one of my books autographed and 2 other books from another author. And of course you get a t-shirt or a hat with that all the way across. The first tier, you get an autographed book. And it's like a keychain or something, I think, some stickers, things like that. And then a $20 tier gets you you get a book and a hat, right, or a shirt.
Yeah.
And then the $30 tier, you get 2 books, a hat, shirt, and then of course $40 tier, 2 books and one of my books, and then a hat, shirt, whatever. And then $50 tier, you get all of it. And if we have if we have the hoodies in stock, you could get that possibly. You know, we're gonna do.
Yeah,
It is summer, so we're not really doing the hoodie giveaway right now, but we are going to do the giveaway tonight. We're going to give away to 3 people. Each one of us is going to pick a person. So get your memberships. Your membership is, I think it's $5, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that will get you entered into the giveaway. And what we're going to do tonight, we're going to give away books. So Tony, go in there and look, see what we got. Books from who we got books from. So go check it out. And so at the end of the show, we'll be doing that. But in between now and then,
and all the books are autographed, by the way.
all the books are autographed by other authors. Yeah, You'll be entertained, hopefully. Pretty crazy story encounter. I mean, you know, this is what happened to Shane's brother. We're not going to say his name. And here's the weird thing. Okay, we gave him a pseudonym before. So when I was on the phone with his brother's he's like me, workaholic. All right, he's a worker, and he's like, he doesn't live out there anymore. He didn't sell it. He just doesn't stay out there, and he's debating about selling his piece of the property. But he lives on the other side in between San Marcos and New Braunfels now. He lives out there. But what do you got?
So I kind of brought a feast. I got
What is this?
Strickler.
Okay. What is this one?
Joshua.
Yeah.
Adam Davies.
Yeah, Adam Davies. Martin, this is a hardback of Martin's. Yeah. Who's this? Oh, Ron Murphy.
That's Ron Murphy.
Murphy, definitely good.
Lewis,
Chad Lewis.
David Weatherly.
Oh yeah, the Beehive State. Yeah,
Kenny Ayers.
good stuff. Oh yeah, good stuff. This is the one I did the forward on, or no? No, I did the forward on the first one. Anyway, different authors, different books. We're gonna give those away. We're waiting on our shipment to come in to Seven Clay, who's doing the work on the camo gear that we created. So when that happens, we'll be doing a big giveaway on that too. So books, autographed books from different authors. So if you're interested in winning that, stick around. Okay. So while we're waiting for the chat to fill up, I hope everybody had a good weekend. And I don't just say that like, oh, I hope you had a good weekend. Something tragic happened. Well, sucks to be you. No, I'm not like that.
You're killing my vibe, man.
I hope everybody really did have a good weekend. And, you know, my weekend, I was hoping to get more rest than I did. I didn't get to bed until like way late today. And then I woke up and then I was up for a little while and I had to go back to sleep because I was so dang tired. And I just could not get it together, man. I'm just very tired. And I had a business meeting today that was scheduled, but luckily I got it done on the phone, so I didn't have to go. It's always better to meet in person, but you know, it's Sunday and they weren't really interested in meeting in person, and neither was I. So thank goodness. Trying to get this bill right here. This bill looks real stiff and it's kind of thick, and so it's kind of looking weird to me. One of the things that I wanted to talk about too, you know, when it comes to this whole phenomenon, like with the Dogman thing, it's really hard to, you know, we've said this before and we talked about it a little bit last night when, Tom Franklin was on with me and Chris James. It's hard to say, you know, that this is what's going on because, you know, a lot of it's just theory and conjecture. And then there's people postulating on these theories because we really don't know what's going on. We're having a hard time wrapping our minds around, you know, and now we got 314. I'm going to start with this. We'll start with what happened to Shane. And what happened to Shane was years ago. And I can't remember. I think I told that story in Dogman Encounters like in 2016 or something, 17. So, but it had happened to him like several years before that. And it was when he was growing up. We'll start with this. And so first things first. So we don't have we're going to just call him Shane's brother. He's an odd duck. Okay. I can promise he's not watching the show, so I'm not worried. Doesn't watch because they don't even have internet out there where he's at.
Bit of an old bloke, that one.
Yeah. They don't have internet. And here's the funny thing. He says, we don't have internet out here. And I said, oh, I was like, I thought when we went out there once and twice, actually. And I said, you don't have internet? Because everybody else out here does. And he says, no, I choose not to. So he doesn't have it by choice. He does have 2 kids, but now him and his wife are currently separated. But him and, I'm not going to say her name, but him and her are kind of on again, off again. Okay. So admittedly, he had a drinking problem, but now he's been sober for several months, and that is because he was incarcerated. Okay. I'm not even going to make any bones about it. That's why I had to wait until June to interview him, because I had said that before, didn't I? Mm-hmm. That as soon as June came, we were going to talk, and I was going to get his information. So here we are. I'm going to talk about it. This is it right here. He's had 3 run-ins with these things that were, one was kind of, if there is a mundane, it was kind of like mine, that's pretty rugged.
I wouldn't call yours mundane, but yeah.
Well, his was like mine, but he just kind of was like, and I'll tell that one. But first, we need to go back to Shane's encounter. And actually, it goes back to when they were children. See, because the Hernandez Ranch is not really where it started. Shane and his brother, now, I wanted to give him a pseudonym. So I said, we're going to call you Cody. And he got angry. And he's really good friends with Noah, who is Jerry's uncle. So that might tell you a little something. When I was interviewing Noah years ago, like I was driving down Mopac. I don't know if I told you guys. Mm-hmm. And I had him going through the speaker of the vehicle. Do you know the story?
Yeah.
And so we were sitting in traffic, and I hear, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
It was loud. And there was a guy on a motorcycle next to me, and he was like looking over, because I had it turned up, because I had the windows down, and it was, it was nice, cool day. And I said, you know what? It was late fall. Scared the crap out of him, and the guy next to me was probably like, what in the hell are you listening to, gangster rap? And he goes, yeah, those were incendiary rounds coming from a AR-15. And I'm like, why did you need to shoot the gun in my ear? Like, there was no reason for you shooting that rifle like that,
Yeah.
And but that's the kind of person he is. And having gone out there, he's the kind of guy who will challenge these things. And I will say this, the creatures that they're encountering out there, they all may be of a metaphysical nature, but I do believe there is a physical version of these things, and they're out there. They exist. Now, since then, we've interviewed Ernest and Alonzo, and what's the other guy's name from the vape shop who lives out in that area? I forgot his name. The one that had the abduction scenario, Carl.
Is it Carl? Yeah.
And then Jermaine, another guy, he's an African-American guy that live in that area. They were friends of these people. Well, all but one of them was friends of these people. And they said, hey, interview so-and-so, because they have been out here for a long time in this area, and they've seen them. And so we did. And so we have several stories that we're going to plug after this one, that these guys, they grew up together. Now, one night, they were down by the creek, and it was Jermaine, who's in between Shane and his brother's age. Like I said, we're going to call Shane's brother his brother because he doesn't want us to use his real name or a pseudonym. Yes. Okay. So it sounds weird. I'm just going to go along. I'm going to respect his wishes.
Well, it stands out. I mean,
I'm going to respect his wishes. I told him that he's full of shit, but that's.
Barring that, is not someone you want aggravated with you.
No, no, he's not, and I'm not the kind of guy that's going to push the envelope with that. So, we're going to just call him Shane's brother. So it may sound weird, but that's by his request, right, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So by his request, we're going to call him Shane's brother. Okay. So there's nothing I can do about it. One thing I'm going to tell you though is that this is a guy who is a very no-nonsense individual. He's not given to fancy, or he's not a storyteller, that's for damn sure. And if I brought him on the show, it would be hard to follow him, right? Now, like I said, he was incarcerated, and it was because he had a DWI, like a prior DWI. Then he got another one because when his wife left him, he started drinking a lot. He was always drinking, but now it got really bad. And so he's cleaned up, and now I'm happy to say he's going to AA there in town, and he's getting some help. And he has he's changed his life. Like he's making strides. And he wants to, but I know, because a lot of it is motivated by trying to get his family back together. And what he told me on Friday is he's working on that. So let's pray for him. Hopefully that will come to fruition if it is God's will. But I talked to her too. And I wanted to get a good feel for who I was dealing with because his own brother told me that, he could be a little off kilter. And he admits that to me, when I've talked to him on multiple occasions. He knows. But he goes, I might be crazy, but I know what I saw. I know what these things are capable of. He goes, I can't tell you exactly what they are, but we've been seeing them since we were children. The first encounter, now he had 3 as an adult, but he had 2 brief encounters when he was a child. The first one that they had, they were playing. Jerry is roughly the same age as Shane. They were like best friends. They grew up on adjacent properties. Shane's family owned that land going way back, way back, right? And Jerry, his uncle, owned a small tract of land that he worked as a vaquero, a cowboy. And he worked it for Shane's great-grandfather or grandfather. I think it was his grandfather. And so, but it goes back to Shane's great-grandfather. He owned that land with his 2 brothers, and they tracked it out. And they sold part of that land to Jerry's grandfather. He actually worked for 20 years and paid. Not only did he get paid, but part of his money was just going back into buying that land. And he left it to his sons, who would be Jerry and Joe and Robbie, and the other brother. I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but because I didn't talk to him a whole lot. But there were 4 brothers, and then they had 4 uncles, and of course the last one left is Noah. Now Abel was the one, if you remember, he supposedly had a dog man as a pet. Although he himself admitted to me that it was not really a pet. He would just come around, and he believed that the other wolves, as he called them, would kill and eat him, attack him, destroy him. So he kept him until he was old enough. And he didn't keep him in the way that people think. He didn't chain him up to a tree or whatever. I actually thought that that's what was going on at one point, but that's not what it was. There was a point where he was keeping him when he was small from being attacked by the bigger ones. I know a whole lot now, as opposed to what we knew when we first started talking about this stuff. We worked with these guys at a very large construction company. We were doing the security. We had all the contracts for them. And I met Jerry. Well, I knew Jerry and Joe. We knew them, right? Yeah. But we weren't like friends. And we had no clue.
We were just working on the same site.
Yeah, we were just working on the same site. We had no clue that they were... And Scorpion made friends with Joe first. And what happened was... Scorpion busted some of his guys doing something they weren't supposed to be doing, which was stealing. And so he called Joe, and Joe came and started to... This is when we were formally introduced to Joe. Well, I guess he would be the first one to really tell us his name. He began to properly whoop their ass, okay, in front of us. And Tony was on the other side. That was, what was it called? Brackenridge or whatever?
Yeah.
And so him and Scorp were in shock having this. This dude was like, okay, Joe is not to be messed with. Joe did 8 years in prison. Okay, he is not a punk dude, right? So then that was our first, so I showed up and I was like, hey man, there was an assault here. And he goes, nah man, it's done. They were stealing. And I was like, well, you did our job for us. I'm not going to complain. The police did not get called because these people were let off with an ass whooping. They had a bunch of stuff. Pretty sure they were stealing other stuff too, and they almost cost us our jobs out there. So what ended up happening with that situation, Scorpion says, you know, he got to know him pretty good. So that he started like bringing Scorpion tacos and stuff, which isn't good for him because he's fat. So
Not a diss, just the truth.
I'm sure Scorpion's he's off today. He's probably sleeping. But so see if they're gonna moderate or show up or whatever. If they're not, that's fine. I don't care. But so because they wanted to know when I dropped this one, and so we made the decision at the 11th hour that we were going to do this one. So that's what I've been working on. So I end up meeting Jerry, and not his real name. I ended up meeting him, like he introduced me to his brother, and I said, okay, yeah, we've already met. And we would talk, and so I had to work that site. And get this, I'd be up at night listening to Expanded Perspectives, you know, listening and working on that site, you know. And one day I was listening to myself on DER, and I was kind of critiquing how I was talking. And I was kind of listening to it, and I was working out, and that's how I met Jerry formally. He came out and was like, we're standing there talking. And he said, hey, I'm going to leave this door unlocked over here because we're going to come back later this evening. We're going to do some stuff, blah, 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 blah. And I said, yeah, that's fine. And he's like, and I'm listening, and he hears me talking. And he's standing there, and there's a pause, and he's kind of like listening. And he's like, what is that? Because I heard you talking about upright wolves, canines, dogman, werewolves. What is this? Like, he's like, and I told him, he's like, you know, it was blaring out of my truck. I said, well, that's me on a show when I'm talking about these. And I thought he was going to think I was crazy because I didn't just talk to everybody we worked with about this. Right?
Yeah.
We worked for a very large nationwide construction company.
I mean, you're actually taking a chance telling him, you know?
And I said, you know, he's probably going to think I'm crazy. And he goes, try me. So I told him what it was, and he goes, I've seen these things. And I thought he was going to say, well, I was driving down the road and I saw something on the side of the road, blah, blah, blah. No, dude. No, he started telling me everything. And when I mean everything, like, I mean everything. I like, my brother was on the other side of the site, and he drove up. We had this little golf cart. It was a beat-up little golf cart that the previous company had left. And because there was something that happened, the construction people like gave it to them to use, and or I don't know how we ended. It wasn't ours. I don't remember what happened. The previous company had left it there because they tried to take it or something. I don't know. So anyway, he pulls up in the golf cart, and so we jump in the golf cart to go do something because there was something going on the other side over there, and we start talking, and he's telling me all this stuff. And he says, look, man, I've seen these things. My family has land, you know, and he told me where. And he says that we've been dealing with these things for years. He said, I need to introduce you to my friend. And now his name's not really Shane, but that's the pseudonym we've given him. And he goes, I need to introduce you to this guy. He's my neighbor, my best friend. We've been friends forever. And I need to talk to my uncles. He's like, this is, you know, and somebody said hit the witness jackpot. Yeah, I guess you could say that, but not really, because here in Central Texas, and I am not joking, man, I'm being dead serious. You could probably throw a rock and hit somebody who's seen one of these things.
Yeah.
I used to think it was rare. It's not. It's not. I mean, compared to like maybe other places in the country, you know, like other places can maybe be like, wow, I haven't, but here, there's a lot of people who've seen these things. And so what I know now, and I'm going to throw this out there before I get too far in, I believe that they come from the cave systems, which we know now exist, large cave systems. And now we've talked to another guy. Oh God, what was that? Brad, we'll say his last name. Brad H. Okay, that dude and another dude named Randall. They reached out to us because they have mapped out some of the cave systems that stretch all the way from northwest of San Antonio, all the way across to Georgetown.
Oh, yeah.
And they believe they connect, right? And they told us this.
Yep.
And then the other guy's name was Calvin Mejia. So he was another guy who got in touch with us and said, look, you know, I was in a cave. I saw these things, right? I mean, he saw them. This was crazy. That's a crazy story. Don't let me forget that one. Text that one to me so I can remember to tell that one. So we ended up going down the rabbit hole with this. Now, recently, I talked to Jerry. I say recently. This is when you know you're old. You think something 3 months ago is recent. Back in March or April. It was around Easter. When was Easter? I don't know. It was crazy. Because I know I talked to Joe Greasy like the day after Easter. We had this long conversation.
Yeah.
But it was the day before Easter, whenever that was. And I had a talk with Jerry, and he had said, "Wish me happy Easter," and it was me and Scorpion and my brother, and we were like, "Hey man, what's up?" And my brother was on that thread, and he said something like, "Have you seen any dogmen lately?" And he said, "Yep." Now, you know, and I had somebody trying to say, "Oh, well, they're probably just shining you on," and I'm like, "Okay, an entire 3 different families." And then their friends that they grew up with, and then these spelunkers that go out there, and then this one guy who was a land surveyor, they all just came forward in a vast conspiracy to trick us into believing that these things exist.
Well, I did a hell of a job.
They did. I would say at this point, from the beginning of this, we counted, me and Tony the other day, what was it, about 35 different witnesses? Mm-hmm. Was it 35?
It was somewhere on there. Yeah, it was crazy.
So you're talking about 35 different people who would have to be on board with this conspiracy. And then we would all have to be in on it too, you know, somehow, you know. Well, I guess we wouldn't have to if they're duping us, but if we're duping you, we would have to all be working together. I mean,
Yeah.
Remember, 12 of the most powerful men couldn't keep a secret.
Can't even.
To save their presidency, but you know, these 35 people,
yeah, they all just
they all just did it perfectly. So
Well, you can't even keep a story straight between like 2 people, much less 35. You know.
It's ridiculous to think of. And what's funny about it is, like, when did these people have time to meet? It's like, it seems like there would be some like grand scheme meetings or whatever.
Well, what we do is we have we have a big like round table with like a black marble top on it, and then we all show up in suits, and like a lot of them are like bald white dudes, and they smoke cigars, and then there's one overhead light in the whole room, and just it's like this harsh point lighting, and we all sit around smoking cigars, coming up with like our next like master plan to dupe everyone to take their money.
That makes sense.
We come up with lies about how about Bigfoot and werewolves and ghosts and pale crawlers and what else? Angels, demons, everything.
Oni, jinn.
None of it's real.
Yeah.
Like it's all a conspiracy between like a handful of very creative people smoking cigars in business suits, sitting around a smoke-filled room.
Sending me to that.
Yeah.
The meeting I've been going to is just around a bonfire, and these guys.
Oh, you're going to a different one.
Black clothes.
Well, you're going to the kiddie table meeting like that.
Oh, that's that. Yeah, that is. That's
yeah, you're not
correct.
ready for the smoke-filled room
I
business.
was
suit
wondering
meeting.
why we still do these
Because you
dances.
refuse to wear clothes that aren't wrinkled.
Well, it's straightened out.
That's what Anthony told me. I thought that was the whole. Anyways, like we said, folks, we're joking around, but you get my point, okay? So back to what we were talking about. So I'm trying to set the stage here to preface this so you'll understand, because get this, a lot of people didn't, if Paranormal Roundtable started watching, they did not know about the beginnings of the Hernandez Ranch. They didn't know how this happened. So what we're dealing with is a whole series of events that started for us, you know, hearing about it years ago, but for them it was going on for decades. And Jerry's encounter with one with his really tall ears, I mean, his daughter saw it, you know, and I mean, it was pretty crazy. And that was the first one that he could absolutely positively identify and said, look, that is what everybody's been talking about. Now, one of his brothers, his uncle, Joe, he's the youngest. I'm sorry, Joe. Yeah, Joe he's the youngest of his uncles. That's right. He was born real late. His parents were already. And so he didn't believe in him because everybody was talking about it. And he admitted, he said, look, until it happened to me, it was hard to accept. But he said, I didn't want, but here years later, he's told me, he's like, I didn't want to live in fear. I'm out there in the range all the time. I don't want to be afraid because I can't live my life in fear. And he said that, so what happened to him, long story short, he was working in a house for a friend of theirs. And one of these creatures came in through it didn't come in through the garage. It came in through the front, didn't it?
Yeah.
It came in through the front, if I remember correctly, and then he ran out the garage and he closed the garage door behind him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then tore that
and this thing, in its animalistic state, did not perceive opening the garage. It was like reaching its arm through the glass at the top, and he could see it. And it was looking. He said it was tall enough to look out and was trying to squeeze its head. Pretty crazy, and then he had his gun, which turned out his wife had unloaded, which was but I told him, I said, it's probably not going to help you anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, he was thinking, like, oh, well, if it comes out, I got a 357, like whatever, well, probably not going to help you.
Maybe if you toss a gun at just the right time, you could throw it down its throat and make it choke, but that's about it. You're not going to shoot it.
Some of them's heads are big enough to where you could throw a 357 down their throat.
Just throw the whole piece.
Like the megalodon of wolves. And so what ends up happening with him, he becomes a believer. And so one night I'm working out there at one of our job sites, way down in southwest of Austin, in the middle of nowhere, where there has been activity out there of other things.
Yeah.
People seeing like giant orbs and stuff falling out of them. And we got a report of a really giant spider the size of a small dog out there too, going across the creek. A lot of weird activity out there. There's been a goat man sighting out there near the bridge. So when they leave, it's nighttime and yours truly is just there. After they come and they tell me all these stories, like about 2 weeks after I'd met them. And I'm just there. So all night long, my head is on a swivel. I was nervous, I'm not going to lie. Having seen one myself, I was like, this is creepy. In the middle of nowhere. And where you have to sit and where the material's at and where the houses are being built, there's people living over there, but they're way on the other side of that property. And if you started screaming and yelling, they're not going to come out of their house and hear you and help you.
Especially overnight when they're all asleep anyway.
They're all asleep. They don't give a crap. They got to go to work the next day. They don't care. They got to commute into Austin.
Oh, it's the wind.
And if you're tired enough, you could hear screaming, shrieking howls from inside your house. You're like, you know what? I'll deal with the demons tomorrow. I'm tired. I don't want to deal with this. So you can't depend on
work.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, some people got to work. You can't depend on people to come out and save you. So I started hearing howling and stuff, but it was coyotes.
Yeah.
But it was a creepy night.
Well, I mean, those coyotes are still big, though.
Yeah, we have big ones out here.
You got to worry when you don't hear anything. When you don't hear any other animals, that's when you got to worry. Or like if there's cattle nearby, and they just start freaking out, but you don't hear any coyotes nearby. Like that's what happened to me on one of our job sites. Like there weren't any coyotes. The animals cattle were just freaking out, and there was like no other noise.
Yeah, I hate when that happens. And that's happened to me at Row Lane. That's
because their natural predators out there are coyotes.
Yeah, Row Lane is right next to that.
So it's like, what is stalking them that's making them freak out?
So what ended up happening? So Shane gives me his story. Now here's what happened. That night that they came out there and they talked to me, and it was a warm night, and probably around this time of year. It was early, summer, if I remember correctly. And he was, Shane's story was pretty crazy. He was on a horse and he was thrown off of the horse by one of these creatures that emerged out of a ditch, and he fired on it, and he believes he hit it several times. The horse was attacked. What was weird about that though is he don't remember like the thing. Like if I remember the story correctly, he didn't see like the horse get attacked, but the horse will naturally just run back toward its home. Mm-hmm. So it jumped over a barbed wire fence, cut itself up a little bit by the barbed wire, but part of its haunch was torn by this creature. And if I remember, he didn't remember it attacking the horse. He said, these things must move super fast. And, you know, so their first encounter goes back to when they were children, and it was them and their friend Jermaine and another one of their friends, I didn't get his name. And they were down by the creek on their property. And there's actually a creek that kind of separates a part of the property. And that area right there, it's a holler. And it's where these things hang out. And they were told not to go down there by his grandpa. And so his dad got a job working in the oil fields, and he was out in Midland. And so his dad was the disciplinarian, and his dad wasn't there. So what ended up happening, they go out there, and they thank you for that donation. Thank you to anybody who's donated so far. We appreciate it. But they were out there looking for crawfish. And so they were finding them, they were putting them in a pail, and I've done this before. And something started paralleling them. And they could see it in the tree line, and all they saw when it went across the tree line, and this was early, like in the morning, like 8, 9 in the morning. And they said that the sun was on the opposite side. It was in the east, right? So where this thing was, they just saw the silhouette, and they could see the muzzle of a wolf. And it was walking, paralleling them, and it was about 6 foot tall, they estimated, about the height of a man, not overly large. And they all took off up out of that creek and it didn't chase them or anything. And then there was another incident where they were fishing at a tank that his grandpa had dug out, and that's what we call them. They're ponds, man-made ponds. But here in Texas, we just call them tanks. And they were fishing for catfish. And he said, we were out there fishing, same kids, you know, but then another friend. And so same thing happened. They see this thing come out of the tree line that looks like a werewolf, sits down and kind of crouches down and like it's trying to hide, and watches them. And then they didn't run because they were told, hey, if something weird ever happens, they were prepped by his grandfather about the existence of these things. So there's these weird upright wolves that walk like people. You know, you need to skedaddle, you know? And so they did. And so here is the story that his grandfather had told him about what happened to a particular cowboy. Now, I got this story from Shane not too long ago, because Shane kept telling me, hey, you know, and he's a really busy guy, and he's got a business and everything. And so he tells me, hey, I'm going to tell you this story. But his neighbor who moved out there, who we met and talked to, he told us, you know, hey, look, there's this, I live next to these people, and they told me about you. So that's how he got in touch with us. One day he watched the show. They told him about us. He watched the show, right?
Yeah.
Or he watched me on DER. My bad. He saw me on DER. He reached out to Armando, right? And then he talked to you, Tony, first. Mm-hmm. Was it you?
It was, I think he talked to Armando, but I think then he talked to me right after.
Yeah, and then y'all told me, hey, there's a guy we need to meet with. So then we go and we meet this guy, and he says, look, I got some information for you. And he had a lot of stuff. And he said, we have a ranch that we bought land out there. And he gave one of his stories to another channel, and I remember him saying that he goes, I didn't know you existed. I didn't know. And when they told me, you know, about this, and it wasn't, I don't think his grandfather bought the land. I think it was like it wasn't like it was new. I think like his grandfather had it, but they hadn't done anything with it. Uh-huh. So when they started putting cattle out there, something was killing their cattle, and they didn't know what the hell it was. So these vaqueros that they had hired, who I think he said they were from they weren't Mexican or something. They were from somewhere else. Mm-hmm. They were gauchos or whatever. if I remember correctly. And then they spotted this creature that looked like a werewolf. But then something happened, and this is what he told us. He told me, Anthony, Tony, Armando, Scorpion, all of us. He told us that this dogman type creature came and it threw this white, pale crawler creature onto the land and walked back out into the woods in front of like several witnesses. And they came forward and saw this thing laying there, and it was a white mass. Now, he did take pictures according to the story, but we're not going to post pictures. I saw it. I mean, it looked legit, but I'm not going to. I mean, if I posted that, people are going to call me a fraud or a hoaxer, and they're going to say all kinds of stuff. Okay, now we have seen these pictures, but I mean, I'm not going to do that, because if you post it, they're just going to say it's fake, and I don't know that it's not fake. And no offense to you, sir. Okay, no offense. I'm not saying you're lying or you're fake or whatever. Nothing at all. Having met you in person, I believe you're legit. Okay, you looked me right in my eye. You didn't blink. He didn't blink his eye. I mean, did he?
No.
I mean, he was very matter of fact, and so I talked to these people, and they said, yeah, that's probably right. And especially Shane and his brother and Jerry all kind of said, yeah, there's no telling what's out in those woods, and they come from a cave. Now, then we talked to a guy named Brad, I almost said his last name. We talked to a guy named Brad, who has worked with another dude, Calvin, and a guy named Randall. There's three of them. Now, Brad introduced me to Randall, and Randall introduced me to Calvin. Brad is a guy who has actually explored the caves out there. And he lives not super close. I'll say what, out near Driftwood, right? Mm-hmm. But he is anyway, out near Dripping Springs. And he has explored that area extensively. And so we were talking one day, and I told him the weird thing that happened to me out there at the cemetery. At the Driftwood Cemetery, which now it's all grown up. When I was out there that night, it was nothing out there but disinterred bodies, okay? Yeah. So he was telling me about these weird balls of light around his house and all kinds of weird stuff, and then they ended up moving, they built a house. And he said, look, he goes, there's caves all underneath us, everywhere. And I met with this guy, and he took me out to a part of his property back in 2000... What was that, 17?
Yeah.
2017, and there was a huge hole in the ground. He goes, if you fall down that hole, ain't nobody getting you out. So we threw a rock in there, and we were like, we didn't hear it hit anything. Mm-mm. And he says, that's where these some bitches come from, the way he talks. That's how Brad talks. But he's actually a really smart guy, but he talks real country, right? Ain't nothing wrong with that. I'm from the sticks, too. But he said, that's where these some bitches coming from. I said, how do you know that? He goes, because I seen it. He goes, there was another hole not too far from here. So then he introduced us to a guy named Dustin, and then Dustin had not seen anything or done anything. He just knew about the mapping. And he said that those three counties knew about the mapping. And then he gave us a story out of Gillespie County, which was pretty crazy. A surveyor out there that got attacked by an upright coyote that took a chunk out of his leg. Do what?
No, it's
yeah. So what ended up happening, this dude, he had no designs on talking about it. He goes, I can get you in touch with this guy. And his name was, ironically enough, his name was Gerald too. Like, So we talked to that dude, and he said, yeah, I was out here and I got attacked. That's another story. And if I don't have that one already in the thing, because I looked for it, I couldn't find it. Text me to remind me to look for that one. So you got to hear that one. That was a surveyor out of Gillespie County years ago who got attacked by an upright coyote, who he said maybe it was just rabid enough to stand upright, but it looked like if he was like a small werewolf. So this thing attacks him. And so then I get in touch with another dude named Randall, and then Randall says, you got to talk to this other dude named Calvin. And then Calvin gave us all this information. He walked into a cave. Now, Randall had an encounter with his wife when they were coming back from a dinner, an anniversary dinner. And it ran out and it hit the side of their car and it flipped over their car and kept running. And he was like, did we just see a werewolf somersault over our car? And that was like maybe a mile from a spot where they had surveyed something. And this guy is a spelunker. And so he said, he goes, that was his story. But he said, you got to talk to Calvin. Calvin's got a story, like a serious one. So then we met with him, and I can't remember that other dude's name that came with him. He heavy set dude with a cowboy hat. I don't remember his name, but anyway. So we met all these people in this short span of time, and we were just going down the rabbit hole. So Shane's brother comes forward when we went out there one day during the day to talk to them. And this was back in 17 or something, maybe I think it was like in March or April of 17. And we went out there and we met with these people. And I remember leaving, and you remember when we pulled up to the gate, Anthony and Tony, I said, I would never come out here at night, ever.
No.
I said, there ain't no way in hell. And these people live out there.
I didn't even feel comfortable out there in the day.
Well, it was like when we were at the Black Swan Inn.
Yeah.
With Ann, Celine, and Ken. And you
That
know,
place is creepy.
I was like, ain't no way in hell I would stay in there. And they said,
No.
yeah, right here in my daughter's bedroom, and that's where the demon. I'm like, why would you sleep there? Like, but then again, I slept in a haunted house for years, and I don't know where exactly, but she was saying
here's the thing. You didn't have kids with you.
No, I didn't have kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she was saying like, well, there's a demon that comes out right of the ceiling or whatever, and I'm like, and you let your kids, you know that's there, and you go in and you couldn't breathe. It was like you couldn't breathe in there.
Yeah, it was heavy.
So, anyways, I'm kind of jumping around here, but I'm giving you some background of what's going on. So Shane's brother gets in touch with me about, it was during the pandemic when this happened, right? Mm-hmm. And he called me up, and of course, I'm going to be very blunt and honest, and I've told him I'm not going to pull punches here. He was drunk. And he called me, he says, hey, come out here. I just saw one of these things. You come out right now. Come out here right now. I'm going to show you. I got pictures. I took pictures of this thing. I don't know. I said, well, send them to me. He says, no, I took them with a disposable camera. And I thought he was full of crap until I saw the pictures. And you can clearly see that there's something there. And now these were pictures from a disposable camera. He would not give them to me, nor does he really seem interested in, copying them and sending them to us. We've asked him. And so he's that kind of guy. But it's pretty compelling, right? Now, when I was working on that other show, I met a guy who had a video, who got in touch with me and said, look at this. And I saw a private screening of, and I saw pictures that I thought, and this was, AI is what it is now. It probably was then too, but this was like 2018 or something, 17, 18.
Yeah.
I was impressed. I don't know if it was real, but it was pretty compelling, to say the least. So whenever this guy gets this story, he says, look, I called his brother. I said, Shane, I said, hey, man, no offense, but your brother, he's calling me in the middle of the night. And I was at work, so it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
And actually, when he called, me and Nellie were together already, because I was on post, I remember, and she was asleep. And I was doing my workout. And he was babbling and drunk, and honestly he was. But that doesn't mean he's not a credible witness, because, he's
those pictures still.
Yeah, he did have pictures. He does have pictures. And Shane says, I wouldn't doubt it. So Shane talked to him the next day, and then he called me up and he says, hey, man, I'm sorry that happened. Shane's a very well organized, put together guy. They don't look at this as anything but a weird anomaly that they've had to deal with. They're not interested in studying it and figuring it out. They don't give a shit. They just don't want to deal with it. And they're happy to help us in any way we can or whatever. But Shane's own words, he doesn't feel like we'll ever accomplish anything in figuring out what maybe he's right. I don't know. Maybe it's just really good entertainment. I don't know. But you have a lot of very credible people, business owners, people who live in this area that have seen these things and have had these things on their property. And you have the reports that we got from close to that area of the bear people, the bear man reports. Now, what's to be made of that? You know, that's the inspiration for the song "The Bear King." You know, and it goes back to you know, what I believe could be some sort of shapeshifter type being. You know, the Vikings, you know, referred to it as the berserker. And I think that these things came over with the Vikings, and they, you know, a friend of mine, I'm gonna tell you this, a friend of mine named Eddie, he actually, not too long ago, or Andy, he had, his mother is half native, and she's half Shoshone, half white, right? And then on his dad is half Shoshone, half white, and his mother's full-blooded Arapaho. All right, I think I got that correct. So I worked with him years ago. Now, I talked to him not too long ago. He listens to the show, usually on the podcast. But he told me, he says, look, I believe that there is Viking blood coursing through the veins of a lot of natives. And I asked him why he thought that. He says, well, he did that genealogy, you know, that the test where you get the 23, whatever it is, one of those. I can't remember which one he said it was. And he found out that he had a lot of Scandinavian blood in him. And of course, his dad being his mother being full-blooded Arapaho, and his dad being half Shoshone, half white, he thought that his dad was just basically Anglo, like English, but there could be Scandinavian roots there too, Northern European. And then his mother decided to do hers because she wanted to know if maybe there was other tribal bloodline, whatever. She had the Scandinavian, not his dad. It's crazy. Like, his dad's bloodline had a little bit of Germanic, but his mother had Scandinavian in there. And so she was like, she could trace her ancestry back to her great-grandparents, and there was no interbreeding with any kind of Scandinavian. So somewhere down the line, way back, some Viking came along and bred with her family.
Yeah.
I mean, Scandinavians were very prolific in that, because
they did.
Even I have some Scandinavian in me. A small amount, but so they got around.
It's on your mom's side.
Yeah.
Yeah, she told me. I remember when your aunt, when she came to visit, your aunt was white. So what ended up happening with this guy, he was shocked. And I told him, I said, I wouldn't doubt it. You know, that's, you know, so when she did the test, she found out that it was on her side. And somebody tried to say, the Cossacks are not Viking. Yes, they are. But they're Vikings in the way that the Normans were Vikings. The Normans of Normandy, they were Huguenots, but they were Viking. They came from Scandinavia, and they settled in that region way back. And if you watch the show Vikings, you'll know, like Ragnar Lodbrok, you know, when they attacked France, they were eventually just given some land and told, please stop attacking us. Same thing happened in Northumbria and England. And they said, please just leave us alone, and we'll just give you land and just go the F away. And they said, okay. And so they took over a region called Normandy. They became the Normans. And ultimately they ended up, I think it's kind of funny that they, you know.
I mean, just like how they changed their names to like Anglo-Saxon and Danes, the Cossacks just did the same. They stopped calling themselves Vikings and just went by Cossacks. So it stopped them from being what they were.
Well, what's crazy though, I mean, they were a mixture of like, I think they were like, it's really weird. It was like Norwegian, Swedish, and Finnish kind of mixed together. So there must have been campaigns, and eventually the jumping off point was probably southern Finland. And then they went into Rus, which is Russia, and then they just kept going, and they went into Ukraine, and eventually they just took over an area that was nice and comfortable for them and said, we're going to take this is ours. They didn't ask permission. They just killed the inhabitants, and that's how they came to exist there. Another anomaly is the Hungarians. They are actually Finnish in origin. So it's the same thing. Their closest blood relatives are Finnish. They're not even related to the Bulgarians and the Romanians and the Czechs, whatever. The Hungarians are kind of like their own thing. They're not really the same as these other people. Their language isn't the same, The Cossacks, same thing. They're weird. They're like a genetic anomaly. So people try to say, well, that's not right. Blah, blah. You don't know history. You don't know what you're talking about. I've studied this. But so back to what we were saying, we kind of veered off into genetics, but it's explaining something here. So we get these stories of these bear men, but they look different than these wolf-like creatures. They look like two different things, but people will describe them as being werewolves, both kinds, the dog man and the bear man. It's like they call them werewolves because they don't really know what to call them. And we've had a couple different people come on the show and talk about the bear people that they've seen, whatever. Whenever these encounters happen, it's always something, people try to put a label in a category, whatever. I don't think you can really do that.
In order to do that, you have to first be able to identify anything.
Okay, you're talking. Let's put you
properly.
Do what?
I say, in order to be able to categorize anything, you have to be able to identify things properly. And you can't do that off of things that you don't have samples of. You don't have any, live species. You don't have any way to gather the evidence. So to categorize it is just a ridiculous notion.
Mm-hmm. Well, people want to they want to understand stuff, and they want to make sense of what they're looking at. So the first encounter that Shane's brother had as an adult, now that you've got some background and that I hope that brings you up to speed a little bit about the Hernandez Ranch stories and everything. Thank you for that donation, man. Good night, man. I hope you come back and finish listening to the story when you get a chance, Venture. So whenever you go and you go down this rabbit hole and you do what we've done, you start to, it can make you feel kind of crazy, I was reading earlier today about a UFO researcher. I want to say his name is CDB, if that's correct, Lewis. I think that's his last name. But he was saying that he felt like he was losing his mind in a house of mirrors, going down the rabbit hole of these UFOs. And I think it's because it's an infinite realm of possibilities. You know what I mean? Because the worlds are not as rigid as we think they are.
It's a simple fact that we're just dealing with technology that's more advanced than us. Yeah. So trying to envision that is maddening, because it's literally like asking, just a random person, build me a rocket, and just expecting them to try to think of how to do that, the chemistry and everything that they would have to learn. So it sounds insane, just me trying to think of it in my head.
You have to speak up a little bit, because I can't hear you, so I don't know if they can. Can y'all hear him? Because he sounds very, very...
I keep having some in my throat.
You all right? Yeah. Okay. You want one of these?
Yeah. With a lozenge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got these candies from a lady in Germany. They're not candy, they're like lozenges, but they really help the throat. So,
thanks.
Yeah. So what we're dealing with here, Shane's brother, his first encounter when he was 19 as an adult, he was hunting. He was out pheasant hunting or whatever. He was hunting, I think he said it was pheasants. And he said, dude, I leveled my gun, and it was me and my friend, Buddy. That was his friend's name, actual Buddy. That's what they called him. And he said, Buddy and me were hunting. And Buddy says, whoa, what is that? And he looks and he sees this thing crouched down like it's getting ready to lunge at something they can't see. They don't know what it is that it's stalking. And they're watching, and then they see this wild turkey come running out from the bush. And this thing just pounced on it from like 10 feet away. He said it moved abnormally fast and jumped on it. And he recognized it as one of these creatures he had seen when he was a kid. The last time he had seen one, he was 13. And so he was saying that's when they were fishing. He was a 13-year-old, so it had been 6 years since he'd seen one. He said that it was not, he was very open about that. He said, you don't see them like every day. He said, it's not like you walk out of your house. And I said, well, yeah, it's very much like a haunting. And what's even weirder, though, is he lived on a trailer on the back of Shane's property at one point. You know, sort of this bottomland out there where he was at. And I asked him why he chose to do that, because he said the trailer was haunted. And I said, why would you live out there? He goes, because I was a bum. He goes, I didn't want to work.
At least he was honest.
He's very honest. I mean, he's very honest. So then he got a job with Noah, and Noah, like what he does, he's a machinist. And so he got an apprenticeship working with him, and they started doing some stuff together. And now Noah, that's Jerry, the guy from the Hernandez Ranch. That's Jerry Hernandez's uncle. His uncle. He's the second youngest. Joe is the youngest by far. And then Joe is Jerry's uncle. Now Joe and Joe told me point blank, he's like, I've known Shane and his brother for years, and he goes, Shane's the go-getter, and his brother's a bum. And we love him. But,
he's an honest
he's just kind of a tinkerer. He's out there. But what Joe told me, though, was he can build or fix anything. He just doesn't have the ambition to do it. But that's because, admittedly, Shane's brother has always had a problem with booze. He's had a drinking problem since he was a teenager. But there could be some explanation for that. And I'm not giving him a pass, but I'm going to tell you, when he saw this thing, him and his friend ran. Right? But when he was 20, I think he was 22, when he was 22 years old, he saw another one. And what he saw really messed him up. Now, this is what he told us he saw. He said, I will never forget. I was driving back home down the back roads, a county road, and I know where he was at, the area. He goes, and I saw what looked like human remains in the mouth of a very large wolf. He goes, it was a black, jet black creature. He goes, and it was 3 a.m, almost 3 a.m. And it ran across the road, and it was this, you could see the what looked like a torso with like arms and like, you could see it like kind of bouncing in the thing's mouth. And he said that when he looked it up, he went to the library, okay, because he's, a little bit younger than me. We didn't have the internet as we did, back then, but it wasn't like it is now. But he didn't have the internet, so he went into town and looked it up in the library, and he reported it, but they were just like, well, there's no body, no crime, whatever. And so he went to the library, and he used the internet, and he said that he looked up large giant wolf, and a picture of a wolf called Fenrir appeared on the screen. Now, if you don't know what Fenrir is, it is the wolf that's supposed to eat the sun, the moon, whatever. It's the end. It's Ragnarok. And we were talking about the Vikings earlier. And he goes, and I looked at this thing, and I saw how big it was compared to like a picture of it. There was a man, and it was some painting, he said, it was almost like that big, because the part of the body that he saw it carrying, what he believed was a corpse. He said, but he, like I say, he drinks, so it's hard. The police they don't take you seriously when you do that. And I'm not trying to be ugly or mean or whatever. Like I say, he don't watch the show. He don't care. No disrespect to him or any of his friends or whatever, but he admitted that he drank a lot, and it could have been anything. Like, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
But I think he's truthful in what he believes he saw. Let's put it this way. if I had to say something about this situation, I would say he believes his story. Okay? Mm-hmm. Let's just preface it with that. So what he saw was something hanging out of the mouth of this, and he said it looked almost tiny compared to this, but it wasn't a child. You could see it was a full grown, but the wolf was abnormally large. And he estimated if this thing would have stood up on its hind legs, it'd be about 8 feet, probably. He ain't counting the tail. And he said that this thing is, very intense encounter. He said he slammed on the brakes and this thing was in no hurry to get out of his way. And he said it turned and kind of looked back at him and it kind of like looked at him like it was almost speaking to him. And I asked him about that. I said, did it speak into your mind? He goes, no, it wasn't like no kind of telepathy thing. He knows what that is. And he says, no, that's not what it was. It was just, that was a person. He goes, and I'm telling you, Wolf, I saw it. And he didn't think I was believing him because I was kind of quiet. And I said, look, I'm just taking down notes, all right? Don't worry about whether I believe you or not. And he stopped and he was like, look, I heard this story like 2-3 years ago. And we had talked about with you guys, we had been talking about when we were going to do all this. And so we had thought maybe we could get him on the show, but then we were kind of so we were advised.
Yeah.
We were advised that that'd probably be a bad idea.
Yeah.
And not because he's a liar, but because he's just not. Like, you'd have to do it on Rumble.
Yeah.
And you'd have to be.
We wouldn't be monetized, is what we're trying to say.
Yeah, it would be.
He just communicates the way he communicates, and it's not really going to filter that for anyone or anything.
Yeah. So, that being said, he stopped me at that point and he says, do you believe me? And I said, I believed your brother whenever he says, no, do you believe me? And I'm like kind of put on the spot because honestly, if anybody gives me a story, I don't know them because I had not met him in person. And I met his brother, I met all his neighbors. But I'm like, I said, I don't know. He said, well, then I don't want to talk to you if you think I'm a liar. I said, I don't think you're a liar. I don't know what to tell you. And he says, well, tell me that you believe me. And I said, and he said, and then he said something which stopped our communication for a while because he said, if you had to say right now, 100%, do you believe me or you don't believe me? I'd say no. Because if you're putting me on the spot and I have to give you a firm answer right freaking now, no, because I don't know.
Right.
And then he hung up. So, there was some, and let me say something else. And this is a lesson to anybody who does these interviews and you want to do what we're doing. Okay. If you're an aspiring podcaster or you're in the early throes of your career, or whatever you think is going to happen, or if you're a writer, author, whatever, and I've done books and I do this, you have to be able to take it. I think it's so funny when people say I get butthurt, but people talking about me. Are you kidding me? I've had people cuss me out on the phone and then call me back, and you have to be able to hear people tell you something uncomfortable. And sometimes they'll tell you information that you're not asking for. I don't want to know about your love. I'm going to tell you anyway.
Yeah, you just kind of have to roll with it because they're communicating something that is very personal and oftentimes traumatic, and they're telling you stuff that they probably didn't even tell like their closest friends and family because they don't want to be seen as crazy. They don't want to lose their jobs, their livelihoods, whatever, their reputation. So yeah.
Yeah, and it stinks because like your reaction or lack of reaction, read one way or another. When honestly, it might just be that you're trying to understand, or you heard so many of these stories that you're just honestly listening to them.
You might move your mic a little bit closer because you talk a little bit softer. Go ahead.
Well, I was done.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Well, reiterate what you said, though.
Well, I was just saying that, like, when that your reaction or lack of reaction, they might read one way or another when in fact you're just trying to listen to their story or make sense of it. Or a lot of times I know that you do this thing where like you kind of think in your head,
Connecting it to other stories.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like you're connecting it. You're trying to figure out, like, I've heard of this before. Where did I hear it? And you just go into your mind vault to figure out where you found it.
Yeah.
But it can be, you got to remember though, as someone who's interviewing, don't like let your reaction or lack of reaction or however they react affect the interview. You shouldn't
You got to keep your
compromise
right?
yourself. Yeah, you shouldn't compromise how you view it in order to get a story, or you shouldn't be like change or try to appease anybody. It should, what most important is getting the story truthfully and also being true to the interviewer as well.
Yeah. And you and Tony and Anthony, we've all interviewed people.
I mean, I've heard some crazy stories all over the place that like didn't make any sense until you piece it all together and it plays like a really cool puzzle piece.
It's some of the, and I'm going to be real honest, folks. I'm going to tell you the absolute truths. For those who are always like, we want to hear the person tell it themselves, it's going to be okay. Yeah, but it's not. A lot of these people can't relay it the way we do, and it's not going to be as good. It's just going to be somebody. They kind of ramble, they jump around, and then you kind of have to follow them, and then you'll be like, this person is not telling the truth. And I've talked to somebody who from my hometown, who I absolutely 100% believed them because what they were describing to me was the same thing that I saw. But if you were to hear them talk about it, and Anthony, me and you talked about this the other day when we were in Taylor, and we were actually talking about a case.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound believable.
Yeah.
But I know that happened because we know the other witness that was there, but doesn't want to talk about it. But you're sitting there going like, okay. But when he talks, he jumps around, he kind of rambles, he starts, he stops, and then people are going to go, he's not telling the truth. But I sat across from this guy at a pizza place, and I heard him tell the story. The first time I heard him tell the story, we were at the gym. What's that called over there in Taylor?
HT Fitness.
HT Fitness, whatever. So we went in there to talk to this guy, and he's kind of moving around, and so you're really not getting, I said, look, we got to meet somewhere. And so we did, and he gave us a story. And his girlfriend is my cousin's cousin. And she was like, yes, this happened, but he is not a good speaker. He's just not. And he doesn't sound truthful. He just doesn't. And he jumps around and and you're going like,
that's the worst part, I think.
Yeah. But a lot of witnesses do that, and they'll tell you flat out they're not good. So when you get somebody who's a good speaker and they're willing to tell it, you're like, come on, let's do this. But then a lot of times they don't want to do it. And you're like, they don't think they sound good. And then there's people that, no offense, but they want to tell their story, but they don't sound.
They shouldn't.
Yeah, and you're like, please don't, because then they're not going to believe you.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the first time I took notes, to give to you so that you could have an understanding of a story. And when I gave it to you, you gave it back to me. You're like, I don't know where the heck, this made no sense.
Dude, it was all over the place.
Yeah.
I know which one you're talking about. I'm not going to put her on the spot. It's a female. And I was like, what in the hell is this? And it wasn't your notes because you tried to, that it was, and when I talked to her, she did that to me. She was jumping around. And
I tried my best, but if you look at my notes, it was like I had one part here, then it just stops, and I continue here, then it just stops, and it kept doing that all over the place.
And if that's the one I'm thinking about,
it is.
She insisted on telling the story, and I was just like, when she was telling me, I said, my audience is not going to, this is not going to work. So you either let me flesh this out and tell it, or you're going to get on the show and people are going to think that you're not being honest. She says, I'm willing to do anything. I hand to the Bible. I said, I believe that you believe this. But the audience ain't going to believe it when you're jumping around all over the place. Like she was in 1996 and she was in 2004. And I'm like, where were you living at? Because she was in two different places.
Yeah, she moved.
She moved. So
they were literally...
it was hard. So anyway, enough of that. But that gives you some. So this to explain ourselves. That's why we kind of chose to do the way we do it. Because there's too much bullcrap in between, So anyway, and another reason why we don't use pictures because it's just going to be an argument. That's all it is. And
I mean, a lot of the complaints that people have, we've tried before, and it just hasn't worked your way. I mean, that's why we've either switched it up or we're always reamping and revamping and just trying to improve. Because, you know, since the beginning of our show, we've always known that there's a better way to do it, and we're trying to figure it out. And I think that we've come a long way, and I think we got a really good product, but, you know, we still got to improve.
Yeah, there's always room for improvement, always. And you got to change with the times. And so whenever he's telling me this and he tells me, hey, you need to believe me, I think I did the right thing. And I just told him, look, if you're going to make me say right now 100%, I'm going to say no because I don't know. And I meant that. I meant like no because I don't know. Because if I said, yeah, I believe you, and you really don't know, then that's a lie. So I said, I'm not going to lie to you, man. You know, you want me to tell you that I'm, because then you're asking me to say something that I don't feel is correct. And so we finally got back in touch. His brother got us on a 3-way call. And it was me and my brother. He was sitting next to me, and then it was him and his brother, and we were all on a call together. And my brother witnessed the conversation, and we were talking. And my brother even said, he goes, this guy sounds drunk. And he was like, I don't want to go any further with that because, but the thing is, and I explained this to my brother, and I've told you this, Anthony, because you said the same thing about another witness. I said, look, just because they do that, somebody said it in the chat earlier. They've drank a whole lot, never hallucinated werewolves carrying people.
Yeah.
I've never hallucinated that kind of stuff, and I've drank, people under the table. And believe me, I think at one point I drank 28 beers and had like a half a dozen shots at the bar, and then went to the house and finished drinking. I mean, like I could drink back in the day. Hell, me and 3 of my friends floated a keg. 4 people, pretty quick too. So back in the day, I could put away some booze. Haven't drank in years, but I used to, I'd have a whole table just full of bottles of beer, and I would drink them all, and then shot after shot after shot. It took a lot to get me.
You ran a nightclub.
Yeah, I mean, I could drink all night, but not now. I mean, shoot, now if I took a shot of, Garrison, I'd probably be like, woo. But you just because somebody's drinking or even smoking doesn't mean that they didn't see what they saw.
Yeah, exactly.
So I told my brother, I said, yeah, he might be. So we kind of cut that interview, and then I went back, and when he was sober, he got into a fight in a bar and got arrested because he had 2 priors, right? So he ended up going to jail. He did a little bit of time recently. So that's who he is, and he's upfront about it. He's not hiding from what he's done or who he is, whatever. But that doesn't make him a bad person, and he was in another county when they picked him up, and he got into a fight, and he was with this girl and whatever, and they got into it, His county where he's in, they kind of know him, It's like they know who he is, pick him up, put him in the drunk tank, and let him go home. But he was in 2 counties somewhere over, and he got into it, and they were like, And so he got the book thrown at him. But it may have saved his life because, he was an alcoholic. And so everything happens for a reason. God has a plan for everybody. So what ended up happening with this dude, he told me this story. He said, look, this was my 3rd encounter with this thing, and this is what happened. And I waited. I did. Until he was in a better place. And he told me this once before, and I never told you this story. I am not saying this is proof of my integrity, but Anthony and Tony can attest, we have had his story for a long time. Mm-hmm. And we did not tell it because I said, I am not going to tell that story until he can tell it to me, and I know he's 100% sober. He had his, what do you call that, upline from his AA to vouch for his sobriety, which I thought was very admirable because he was that determined to tell me what happened. Mm-hmm. Okay? So I said, okay. So here we go. This happened during the pandemic. We've had this story since 21?
Yeah,
has it been that long? Because he was in and out of jail. And I was just like, I'm not going to. So he hears something going on near the chicken coop, which is at the bottom of the hill which, you know, has a small little A-frame on there, or it did. And I think he tore it down or something. I don't remember. And he was living at the back of the property, and he had actually built some, like a chicken coop or whatever. And Shane's oldest son, who's an adult, you know, he's a grown-up, and he was out there, you know, and he saw something. He came running back up to the house, and he was eating dinner. Shane's brother was eating dinner with Shane's family, and one of Hernandez's would have been Robbie's. I can't believe he's got a teenage son who was hanging out, you know, playing with their youngest son. You know, they play soccer together, and they were eating dinner. Like they were eating pizza or something. And he says, there's something down by the chicken coop. He goes, I saw something, you know. I don't know. So Shane was like, don't go running out there because, you know, they've all seen these things. They know that they're there. And there goes his brother. He goes and he grabs a rifle, and he's gone out the door. Now, the chicken coop is not like, it's not just right there by the house. It's in between their houses. And he has a horse that he likes to ride, that his brother likes to ride. And he says sometimes he'll get on the horse and he'll whatever. So he mounted up and rode down there. And he, you know, because the horses, a lot of times, they'll scare those coyotes away. And so he thought maybe it might be a coyote. He sees the eye shine, and there's something eating one of these hens, and the coop is torn to crap, and it is down on all fours, and it's just chewing up these, and there's a few of them scattered around, and it was just eating them as fast as it could. And he said it was one of these damn things. This one chilled me to the bone when he talked about it. He said his horse bucked. He stayed on the horse, but he got off of it, and his horse, his name is Omar. His horse name is Omar, because his son, he named it Mars, like the god of war. Yeah. But his son called him Amar. So he called him Omar. So the horse is now called Omar because of his son. So his little boy, you know, calls it Omar. So Amar took off, you know, because this thing stood up, and I'm going to do this. It was down like eating, and it was like, you know, and it did that, you know. Mm-hmm. And so then he's like, crap, and he backed up, and he had a 308, and he just like, bam, you know, bam, and he unloaded on this thing. And he said when it did that roar, and it turned, and it looked at him, and did that lunge thing, he was like, boom, 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 you know, I unloaded on it, and he goes, and then I pulled out a 45, and then here comes my brother, and, you know, a bunch of other people, and this thing stopped, fell over, rolled, and then got up and then took off. And then there's like a big hill. And then there's like an embankment, and it kind of slopes down, and it falls into like a creek, and then it goes across. So that's what it did. And then it splashed through the creek and was gone. He said, this thing should have been dead as a doornail. He said it got to within about 2 feet of me. And he said, and I know one of those, that lead, as he said, went right down its throat. Like the bullet went, and it should have came out the back of its neck and killed the son of a bitch. And he said it didn't. So then he asked me, like I'm the expert or something. He goes, you've interviewed 1,000 people, so you claim. You know, that's what he said. I said, yeah. And he goes, have you heard of these things doing that? I said, yes. Yes. It was dark. I said, did you find blood? He said, yeah, but I don't know which one was the chicken's blood and which one was its blood. He goes, but this thing's brains and spinal cord, stem, everything should have been all over the place. I said, did you see any black stuff come off of it? And he's like, admittedly, he's like, it was dark, dumbass. You know, he called me a dumbass. And I said, okay, drunk ass, you know, whatever. We kind of have that kind of relationship. We're not really, I wouldn't say we're friends. Some people don't really have friends. You know, like in the way that we do.
Some people can
only have people they deal with. Or people they tolerate.
And he says he hates people. I said, okay. But I get it. I understand why he lives the way he does, and he's the way he is. But I told him, I said, look, do you think it went off and died? He said, no. Because the next day we mounted up and we were all over those woods. We didn't see shit. It was nothing. And so I said, and Omar didn't. He's like, I didn't take him. I took my mare. He's like,
Mars had enough of war.
Mars throws me off the. It's like he's like, but the horses were spooked, But they couldn't get through there on the 4-wheeler where they were going. They were trying to go out into that holler and see what they could get,
Yeah.
Now here's the weird curveball that has been thrown at us. Dustin, this guy named Dustin, went through there. He is another interesting character. Like he is, like I said, I wouldn't say he's Shane's brother's friend, but they know each other. So when Shane told him he works with this guy works close by where his office is at, he showed up and he says, "Yeah, my wife's," and this is kind of a weird thing. He said, "My wife's ex-boyfriend." He's like, and they all grew up together, right, in this small community. He said, "My wife's ex-boyfriend and me, it's a weird thing. They still they have to see each other because they work in the same area, but they're cordial. It's not like they're, because they had a kid together." And he says, and so, and he goes, it's even weirder because he used to date this guy's sister. So Dustin was telling me this. He's like, this is kind of a weird family thing here. It's sort of Jerry Springer, but there's no incest. He's jokingly telling me this, And he said, but I know the guy. And so he had an encounter right there in those woods because years ago he was hunting. He had permission from Shane's dad to go and hunt down out there. And Shane and his brother were up in Wyoming and they were on a hunting trip. And so he said, I would like to, if I could, I want to go hunting because there were wild turkeys. And he said that was fine. Go, do what you got to do. He said, so me and a friend who's now deceased, and he told me this story 3 years ago, so 2 years ago. I guess it was just, it would have been early 2023. So this is 2024, so about a year ago. So what he told us was that he was out there hunting and he sees this big creature dragging a hog, partly with its front limbs and partly with its mouth. And I immediately just thought, here goes another Dogman story. No. What he saw, he said, looked like a bear. And he goes, and I'm sitting there and I'm with my friend and I'm like, hey. And he said, it was me and my friend Jake. And we were like, I'm like, Jakey, they called him Jakey. He said, Jakey, do you see that? And he said, he's half blind. He like looking, and he has, always with the binoculars around his neck because he can't see. And he's like, he looks, he goes, holy crap, that's a humongous bear. He said, this is a bear, it's the size of a Kodiak. And he said, I was 26 years old. I wasn't no kid. I knew what a Kodiak bear was. He's like, and this thing was gigantic. I mean, enormous. And he said, there's a big old tree stump out there from some ancient oak, that was it was huge. And he said that it was, about 5 or 6 feet around. It was so big, the base of it, He said this thing was going by that stump and it made it look small. I said, Dustin, how big do you think that this thing was? He goes, dude, I would say probably 1,000 pounds. Oh, jeez. He goes, the hog it was dragging had to be 400 pounds. That's this. That's a tusk right here. This is not 400. This is 350, something like that. I like to say it's 450, but it's really not. It's about 350.
About 350.
It's about 350. But you got hogs out here. There's hogzillas. I mean, I've seen some of them the size of a Tacoma. You think I'm joking? I am not. I've seen them with my own eyes, and you're like, what am I looking at, dude? I'm not talking about pictures. Hell, my cousin Donnie out in Bryan killed one last summer. It was so big. You remember that picture he had? It weighted down the back of his Ford. I'm not joking, man. Some of these country people out here can attest to this. There's some hogs out here. They'll kill and eat you.
There's some monsters.
There's the reason why we have an open season on them.
Yeah, it's open season all the time. Them and coyotes. You take a tail coyote or a hog, in these counties out here, they'll give you a bounty for it because you're doing them a favor. So this thing, he goes, it was dragging a 400-pounder with big old, it was a boar, a tusks, everything. And he was just chewing pieces of it and pulling it. He said, then my dumbass friend Jakey, he steps on something, you know, leaves, and this thing stops and just like looking around, you know, like, and he's like, it raises its head, and he's like, it's sniffing the air, and he goes, we got down real low. And I was like, oh, crap, you know, this thing, he's like, these guns are not going to hurt whatever that demon is. And I said, so I asked him, I said, Dustin, absolutely tell me this. I said, I want to know. Did it look like a werewolf? He says, kinda. And then he was like, in the next sentence, he's like, nah, hell no. It was like a bear, but it was like a man. He's like, I don't know what it was. And he said, then it stands up on its hind legs, and he goes, and it does this weird thing where it lurches its back, and then you hear pop, pop.
Yeah, it was that popping noise.
Yeah. And then he hears, like this thing roared. He said, and it was deafening. He goes, there were birds in the trees that weren't making a sound, and they all just flew out of the trees. He's like, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just going like, oh my gosh. And he goes, and my friend, he didn't have a real strong constitution. He said, dude, this thing, my friend was started crying. He goes, and I'm not going to lie to you, man. He goes, I didn't cry, but I wanted to.
The type of noise you can feel in your bones.
But he's like, if I would have cried, I felt like this thing was going to hear us whimpering and come get us. He's like, and I was like, thank God he's got a hog. He goes, and this thing turned and like kind of ran a couple steps and then stopped and was kind of looking around. He goes, and we were down, like, and by the grace of God, there was like a down tree branch, a big one, an oak branch, and we were down below it. And we were looking down. He goes, and I could see its feet. Now, here's the weird thing. You know how you got those backward bent dog-like legs? This thing had the backward bent legs, but where the feet were, they kind of came out and were elongated, kind of like a human's feet. You know, they weren't like dog-like paws.
Yeah.
And it had these weird claws on the end, like a bear, but like a man's foot mixed with a bear. That's what he said. And the upper body was like a man, but it had a bear head. I mean, he said it had a big old bear head on it, dude. And I said, you know, how tall was it? He goes, at least 9 feet. He goes, this was not, and then I asked him this question. I said, sometimes people overestimate the height. They'll say, well, this thing was like 8, 9 feet. I hear that all the time. They see a Bigfoot, it was 10, 12 feet. About was the biggest thing you ever saw. You know, and I'm like, well, are you sure? I mean, maybe, and I'm not saying that I don't believe people, but he said, we went back up in there with Shane's dad. You know, my dad. And we went up and we measured up on the tree. He goes, and it was, from what I remember, like at least between 9 and 10 feet tall. There wasn't no damn wolf.
Yeah.
And then his brother, and I don't know his brother, and I can't remember what he said his brother's name was, but it doesn't matter. His brother saw one of these werewolf-looking creatures, and he said it was about 7 foot. Probably weighed 400 or 500 pounds. And he was like, that ain't nothing compared to what this thing was. And he said, my brother saw one time when he's pulling out of the bar and it ran right across the road. And he said he almost hit it. He said, I just saw this humongous creature. So he started telling him the dimensions, the size and everything of what he saw when he was young, when he was in his 20s. And he said, no way that could even compare to what I saw. He goes, when I saw that day, he goes, I'll never forget it. And he said it looked like the devil. I mean, he goes, this is what he said. He goes, you know, if you imagine like the most monstrous thing you could imagine, the apex predator of the earth on land. And, you know, and I made a joke. I said, well, the apex predator on earth is an orca that we know of, you know. Mm-hmm. He says, I'd put money on this thing going into the water and eating one. I said, okay. You know, I don't know. So, Bear Man? Probably, yeah. You know, I mean, but it's in the same vicinity and in the same area. Now get this, you know, you take your chances, whatever. In that same area, now not on that property, but on an adjacent property, there have been 2 Bigfoot sightings of a creature that was about 8 foot tall, but huge traps, big triangular head and pointy head looking, but it flat face, very ape-like creature, with reddish brown fur. This creature he saw was black, and it had the bare head, the body of a man. He said even like down on its chest, down to its stomach, it looked like a man. He goes, you could see like a 4-pack, you know, with like some fat around the bottom of it, and it had a belly. But the Mavs lost. I hope they don't get swept. Oh, damn it. But if you stop and you take all these encounters together, it gets really, like I said, you go down the rabbit hole. Now that's what happened to Shane's brother. Now we've had that story for a long time, but I wanted to make sure that this is the truth, that you're dealing with somebody who's clean and sober. I'm not a judgmental person, but I want to know that when I'm getting a story from somebody that they're in their sound, that somebody says sounds like sound mind, right? You know.
I mean, I think that's kind of your job as an interviewer. I think, like, you know, there's plenty of shows out there who could tell stories or just, you know, retell stories, but our job as an interviewer and a researcher is to be the one that uses our own integrity to discern whether we believe these stories are real or not. Then we give those out to our audience. And I think that speaks volumes about your own integrity, that, you know, you won't just 100% say like, oh, I believe this just to appease him so that you could hear the rest of the story, because you are trying to figure out the truth of it. So, you know, being honest with not only yourself, but also with the witnesses is going to get you to that eventually, hopefully. That's what we want. And that's our job. And that's what all, you know, 30,000 or 80,000 more likely on the bigger pod, on all the platforms. All the platforms.
I thought it was that's like 90.
Yeah,
I don't know. Whatever.
Close to 90. It's lot close more. To 100. I mean, really. But that's what they you know, want from us. That's what, you know, hopefully that they like when they watch us, is that they can understand that they're not only going to get good stories, but stories that, you know, have been maybe not 100% verified, but at the very least, we could say like these. Well,
at the end of the day, it's all
story
up to.
Can be
that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't verify.
That's why you don't put on their true.
But we don't put up their
like,
bull crap. Like, we don't put up their stuff that you'll be like, okay, that doesn't even sound.
Like the
real.
most you can say is that these witnesses truly believe what they're relaying.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, you can say that. You can say that
they're not coming up with lies. That's the main thing.
I mean, well, you know, and I don't AI generate this crap these people put out there. You know, we're not gonna get into that, but there's you know, I wasn't, and you know, there was some contention between me and this man. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not, like I've said before, I admit it, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Some people think I'm an asshole. You know, it's just what it is. But I try to be, I come real with it. You know, take Agnes from what happened. You know, I use that as a case in point. She didn't like me because I told her what she didn't want to hear. Yeah. I could have just buttered her up and got the story and got out and said, see ya, and then ran and told everybody what she said. But I told her that I thought she was wrong.
It's important to communicate honestly, even if they don't, you know.
Well, like it's our duty.
You know, that is the forbidden city. You shouldn't have been there, you know.
Yeah.
Especially in the time of terrorism and everything that was going on. You know, you put people's lives at risk.
Yeah.
I said that. I mean, a man died. You know, I'm not here to pass judgment on people. I'm not that, you know, I'm just a man. I'm a guy like everybody else. Some people want to believe that they're more than they are, and you're not. And last night I was getting trolled by somebody. I don't know if he was really trying to troll me, but he was saying some stuff. And, you know, it's kind of like one of them things where, you know, I was talking about how a narcissist will say something and they have no intentions of ever doing that something. They just keep stringing you along. Yeah, I'm going to give you this, I'm going to give you that. And then they never actually do anything that they say because they're just stringing you along. They're rainmaking, you know. And this guy said something about you just said what a narcissist was, or something about it. And I said, no, bull crap. Because if you look at my track record, it speaks for itself. And here at PRT, all of us, we have done exactly what we said we were going to do. Whether it was write the books or do the conference or, whatever. We've had this story. And if you go back and listen to PRT for the last couple years, we've referenced this, but we haven't told the story.
I remember back, I think it was maybe like a couple of years ago, it was all four of us in the room sitting down talking, and we were discussing this story, and it was just all of us deciding, like, should we tell this story? Because, everything that had happened up to that point, I think at this point he was still incarcerated. So, like, we were all deciding, like, what do we do with this story? Like Hernandez Ranch is kind of at a standstill because we have this great story, but we can't put it out because we don't feel comfortable with it. And we all decided, like, it was ultimately Wolf's decision, but we all gave him the advice of, we don't think we should run it. We don't think that we should wait on it. Or we think that, like, hopefully there'll be a time for us to be able to tell it, but that time isn't now. Yeah. And we were right. And, we are able to tell it now.
Yeah, because we could have gotten into this earlier, because before we could have gotten into this part of the story before now, because a lot of you, almost every episode, someone asks, hey, are there any updates on Hernandez Ranch? But we just, we
it just didn't feel right.
Yeah, we have to handle things with a certain amount of integrity,
And I think, like I said, it's a simple thing, but I think it's one of the most important aspects that I think a lot of researchers are overlooking, and they've taken it to where they become the truth instead of them telling you the truth. And there's a difference. There's a difference in that, and people have to recognize that difference and understand that what you should be telling people isn't your skewed, version of it, but instead what you were told, what you're conveying the information.
Ultimately, the truth lies with whatever the listener chooses to believe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just your job to present everything they need to make their own informed decisions.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the bottom line.
Instead of trying to preach and change convince them of something that ultimately they're gonna have to do themselves. That's kind of why I kind of just gave up on trying to convince people that the paranormal exists. Like, if you don't believe, that's all. That's
you just
all.
Gotta move on to open minds.
One day when it slaps them in the face, they'll believe. So, Mystical Wonderland says, "Oh, duh, Hernandez Ranch. What is that? What did I miss?"
I think she was asking earlier, what the
story.
What we were getting into. She probably didn't read the title.
Pay attention, dumbass. I'm joking, Mystical. I'm just messing with you. Don't forget to buy your memberships. So you can be entered in the giveaway. We don't put anything behind a paywall. So we have to do something for the members. Who is John Phoenix North? I don't know who that is. The good thing, too, about the folks out there in that region is that, I say with the exception of maybe 2 other researchers that I know, one of them being an author, and the other one being a filmmaker. I think we are really the only podcaster that they talk to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Probably.
I think, it wasn't easy. It took some luckily circumstances, but also a lot of, personal speaking to them to be able to get them to open up. So, it wasn't like we just found them or, something. It was just lucky circumstance that led to us expanding onto this gold mine.
Yeah, and really and truly, we have gotten stories from everywhere we go.
Mm-hmm.
We were at a movie theater, me, Anthony, and Nellie, and we talked to a guy. Dude, his
Oh, we haven't
information.
gotten back to that guy.
yeah, that
His
guy.
information's sitting in my dresser.
I was there for that. I remember. It was all
Yeah,
of us,
that's
actually.
right. You were there, yeah. And he says he shot a chupacabra
Scorpion was there
on
too.
the rock there. And then there was another lady. We were eating dinner, and she says my sister saw a vampire, or something that she thinks looked like a vampire. Then we interviewed her. We haven't told that story yet, but we were at dinner. Dang, what was the other one? There was another one. Oh, the lady over at the Dos Sauce. Yeah. Well, I don't need to say the name of the restaurant, but she said she saw a dog man when she was a child.
I mean,
It tried to pull her out of a car when she was a little kid.
yeah. What about that lady who was working in a space-themed restaurant who was an abductee?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
What do you-
Yes, that's another one. Dude, we have gotten so many. And then there
the
was
name
a
of the
cashier
restaurant
at the
was
HEB
Yeah.
who said something was tapping on her glass, and we're sitting and I'm like writing down her information. There's a line of people, and I'm over there going like, look, let me get your information. Her name was started with an A. I'm not gonna say it. Well, I don't think no. She said I think she gave us her information. But anyway, we'll say first name. Her name's Aubrey. I remember that because she gave me, and it was crazy. And then there was another person who gave us a story from Australia. They didn't live in Australia, but they went there to go with their parents or something for a vacation, and they saw something. Yeah, it was crazy. That's a crazy story.
That's what we mean though when we say like if you're
That's
not
a good one too.
if you can't find stories, you're not looking.
I'm going to tell you this one. This one was crazy. We were at a restaurant, and when we were talking to the waiter about our show, wasn't it? It was the guy from Taylor. He's the one that saw the crawler in the redwood forest in California
Yeah.
when he was a kid, and then somebody was listening, and so when I was coming back from the bathroom, they're like two. The restrooms are like right there together, so and they're gender neutral, which is hard to believe. My hometown has that now, but anyway, that we walk out at the same time, and he's like, hey, look, I heard you talking to the waiter, and I gave him my card, and he's a realtor, and he gave me his card, and he says, I heard you were talking about looking for property, so we kind of exchanged information, and then when I called him, and I actually was talking about some land, and it's gotten super expensive, because Trey Felton from Thorndale, he is a part-time Bigfoot researcher, and he's the guy that caters our conferences. He's catered the first and the second conference, and he'll do the next one. But this guy, he said, he knows Trey, and he was talking about the land out there near Thorndale. So we started talking about Apache Pass, and he gave me information. He says, my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, he's like, told me a really crazy story when we were first dating. I'll see if she's willing to tell you. And so, and we talked about Apache Pass. He saw a ghost out there at Apache Pass that looked like a Spanish monk, and walked out in front of his car with him and his girlfriend at the time. Her name's Carly, and they ran right through it. He said that when it went through the vehicle, he goes, I saw a skeleton head. And I told him, I said, something very similar to that happened to me and three of my friends. But it kind of went over the top of our car, and it was my friend Chad, the one that I had talked about, who saw the blue alien, the thing that he says it was a dream, but I think he was actually abducted. The girl that I was dating at the time, her name was Virginia, and my friend Jason Carr, who was with me when we saw the black dogs. And this thing went over the top, and we were all driving, and we were like, we were on Woodland Drive, right there in Austin. We're here in Austin, and we were like, right there by the park. And I was like, was that a skull? Like, everybody was like, whoa. And we were like, in our late teens, but we weren't drinking or doing anything. We were just driving, and it was like 11 at night. And we were in between I-35 and South Congress, right there on Woodland Drive.
Yeah.
And so when this guy was telling me about this, he goes, we drove through this thing. And you could see the habit, the cross, everything. It was a monk, a Spanish monk, but his face was real gaunt, and it was like an X-ray. You could see the skull. Mm-hmm. So then he fast forwards. He tells me, he's like, talk to my wife. She goes, when she was in Australia, she saw something very, very strange. And so, she told me a weird story about something that was tapping on the glass. not that wasn't the one. It was the hotel. She said she was a kid and she was sitting there on the edge of the bed and they were in Sydney. And they were getting ready to go to like the opera house or something. There was some kind of deal and her cousin was performing or something. And she says, I was a little kid. I was like, 11 years old. She's like, and my little sister was being a brat and my mom, she was on the ground. She threw herself on the ground and her mom was like picking her up. She did the limp thing, And she's just sitting there. She's like, I'm looking down at my shoes that are very uncomfortable. I'm kicking my feet and I'm just like this, my sister's, she's like, and still to this day, she does the same thing with her husband. She throws temper tantrums, whatever. And she's like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is going to be boring as hell. She said the day before she went to the rehearsal and it was boring. So she wasn't looking forward to it at all. And she looks and she sees this thing moving down the hallway, dragging something. And when it stops and it drags it some more, and she said she's staring at it and it's like a body. It's a person. And she's like, but the thing that was dragging it looked like a goblin. And she was like staring at it. And she goes, I stood up and it was pulling it. And when it noticed our door open, she's like, our door was open to the hotel room. You could see it like it was like partway open. It stopped and it looked at her and it kind of like made this hissing noise. And she said, I was a very precocious child. I wasn't like running away. She's like, I went kind of toward it to try to look. And when I did, I noticed that there was nothing there. It wasn't actually a body. There was nothing there. And it was just this weird, decrepit man. But his skin looked light green. And he had a really pointy hooked nose. And it looked like a goblin. And she goes, and I'll never forget it. And it hissed at me. And then it got down on all fours and it ran around the corner. And she said that when years later, when she told her, she didn't tell anybody about it, but then years later, she told her mother about this story. And her mother got real freaked out and was like, that's crazy. She goes, because she's like, that day when we were leaving, she goes, I thought I had imagined a woman's body laying on the ground. And she's like, and I almost tripped over like, oh, she's like, and then I realized there was nothing there. So and it was like 10 years later that they talked about it. Yeah. So that happened in Sydney, Australia at a hotel. I don't remember the name of the hotel, but anyway, that was a story that she had given us. And it was freaky, man. And it was right after that dude had told us about the, it was the second time we talked to him about it, about what he had seen in the redwood forest.
Yeah.
And that it was a couple that were sitting there. And that guy heard me talking to him. I said, hey, I'm going to tell your story on the show unless you want to come on and tell it. And he works there at Plowman's. Yeah. It's called Plowman's Restaurant. So that was that was a freaky story, dude. Like, so you get these stories like all the time, and like Madeline just said, that I strike up a conversation with people. Maddie and Bettina saw me do it.
Oh yeah. Bettina
was like, damn, you just like talk to people and get stories like that. I said, that's
not even like, even besides stories, we just talk to people. I mean, I remember we were outside of like, what was it, Walgreens or something, and it was just like some random lady, and we started striking up a conversation, and Bettina was looking at us like we were crazy. Because we were, I think.
Oh, yeah, that was in Lago.
Yeah, we were making fun of her or for something.
Because she said that the girl's daughter, I said, I bet you she's Ethiopian. And she was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I said, I bet you she's Ethiopian because I know people. And so we started talking, and her mom was really cool. And we started talking, and her daughter was like a teenager or whatever, but Bettina said something about, she's like, because she kind of made a joke because the town is predominantly white, and it was a white woman with a child. And I said, I bet she's adopted and she's Ethiopian.
Yeah.
Because you could look and I could tell. Or Eritrean, either one, but I was right. But Bettina,
she was just kind of shocked.
Shocked at how and then I got a story when we were at the Mercado, at the plaza. The guy that took the pictures, he was from Pakistan, but he looked Hispanic, and he said, everybody thinks I'm Mexican because it's in San Antonio. And so we started talking, and he gave me a story. And then there was he told me about another guy who had told him a crazy story. So there's a guy that I got in touch with named Arturo, different Arturo. but he actually is the guy that cleans the one on the east side, right? So then, well, he doesn't anymore. He used to, but I talked to his brother. His brother said, you know, because he was like he goes, my brother used to be the janitor, and he can tell you a story about that. So I got a story about the Mercado. It's haunted as shit. Excuse my language, but that thing morphed, whatever it was.
Oh,
yeah, it was like a black ball of goo, you know, on the wall going toward the restroom, and it rolled like a ball out in front, like a bowling ball. And you know how there's like that slope, you know?
yeah.
It rolled towards him, and then it unfurled itself. Now, when I was working at a building downtown with Scorpio and the twins, you know the twins. I call them Tomax and Zaymont, but that's a joke. It's Matt and Mark, but they were my brothers from back in the day. There were a couple guys, they were twins. They were identical. And I could tell them apart. Most people could not tell them apart. I could tell them apart because Mark was just a little bit bigger than Matt. And Matt, I knew because Matt was louder. Matt was more, you know. Mark was a little more reserved, and, you know, and they were both funny as hell. But we were working together at the parking garage, and when I went upstairs one time and they were in there counting the money, and I had to go and stand with them because, you know, somebody could follow you up. And so I would lock the elevator. But criminals, you'd be shocked, folks. Never underestimate, get this, two things. Never underestimate the power of somebody who wants to steal. The stupidest person will become a genius real quick.
Oh, yeah.
They stop being mentally lazy when it comes to money. And then, never underestimate the power of stupidity. So I would stand there, just kind of like standing there watching them, you know, and I saw something that looked like a ball kind of roll. And for a minute there, I was going to kick at it, and I was like, what in the hell is that? I probably told the story before. And then it kind of maneuvered itself, I guess I could say that. It kind of like rolled onto like a pillar, and it just unfurled itself, and it looked like a pill bug unfurling itself, and it became like a shadow person. And I was sitting there looking at that, and I was like, what the hell? And I just kind of went like, dude, maybe I'm tired, because not everything you see is a ghost or a monster, you know. Of course. You know, some people is like, whatever it is, I think I see it becomes Bigfoot to me. It's like, no, it's not a Bigfoot.
Or demons.
Or a demon, you know, it's just your eye, you're bleary-eyed. I've done that before, maybe just really tired, you know. When you work 16 hours a day for 30 years, you get that way. Some people wouldn't understand it because they don't work. But I saw this thing unfurl, and I'm like, what in the hell am I looking at? And then, like that, it was gone. So I thought I was losing my damn mind. But then I asked Falcon, and that's his name, his last name, Falcon. And now you probably remember him because we told his story on the Halloween episode a few years ago about the woman that was sitting inside of one of the offices when he was on his patrol route. And now me, Tony, and Anthony over the last 2 months have had to do patrol a lot. Yeah. And every time you go in one of them offices, I can't help but think about what happened to Falcon. And like that woman turned around and shrieked at him like a siren. And then it turns out that the reason that there was water in that, you go back and listen to the show. It's one of the Halloween episodes. The reason that there was water that was pooling in different spots in that office was because a woman had been drowned by her boyfriend there. So, wow, we hit 890. Wow, that's amazing. Really quickly, too. Now it's a 782. So 108 people just decided they didn't want to hear anymore.
They heard about water, and
they were like, water and soap? Yeah. Paratroopers don't need that.
We don't need no stinking soap.
Those who are about to die, do not shower. But yeah, so what with that story though, I mean, and you're probably going, what does this have to do with Hernandez Ranch? Well, I'm going to get into a couple things here. We got some time. There's hauntings that are going on in these places at the same time all this other stuff is happening. Now, if you were a person who doesn't understand the Dogman phenomena in the way that I do, the way that we do, the way that our colleagues now understand it, you would probably be tempted to think, oh, this isn't possible, this can't happen, this is these different phenomena all at one time. Well, what is the Skinwalker Ranch? Eric Palacios from Media Palace, I think he said it best. He's like, I would put this up against any place in the country, including the LBL and the Skinwalker Ranch or Area 51. Yeah. Which, by the way, that is going to be one of the scents that we're going to come out with for the for the cologne. We're that's one of them we're kicking around. If you guys want to throw in your ideas on names for our cologne, the men's, and then there's going to be a perfume for women. Yes, this is true. This is a real thing. Me and Anthony were on the phone the other day with Maddie, and we were talking about this, and I gave Maddie the 411. I'm telling you, I'm announcing it right now. We are coming out with our own scent. Now, this isn't
brainstorming some names the other night.
Brainstorming some names, and this isn't a ploy to make money. This is, I love colognes. I have a lot of colognes, and I thought about doing a side project just for fun and doing some tests on different colognes and perfumes, and then telling you guys, hey, check this out. If you like the way this smells, Wet Dog Man. Mystical, I don't think that would sell very good. I don't think Skunk Ape would either. Old Day Ass,
Yeah.
by Estee Lauder. No, but there's different ones. So I thought about Area 51. Who knows? We're going to come up with something. Wolf's Bane. There you go. See?
Oh, yeah,
PRT audience.
cool.
What did I say? I said the PRT audience will give us, they're going to tell us what we're going to name this thing. I told you that. Didn't I say that?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought Wolf is another one, Vulcan. I was like, just call it Wolf. And then Siren Scream. See, Gore Lord, you got it. Because me and Nelly were brainstorming about the woman's perfume, and we thought Siren by Paranormal Roundtable.
Oh, Midnight Howl is a good one.
And seeing my friend Dominic's daughter is actually a model. And when I go into my friend's cologne perfume shop, her picture is actually there on the wall. Her cousin works for us. Actually, both her dad's first cousin and her son both work for us. But I forgot to tell her that I saw her on a poster at Al's shop. I go in there and I'm like, I know that kid. Well, she's not a kid anymore. She's an adult. But I noticed that she was a kid, and she's a model. But she's a advertising perfume. We get her to advertise the cologne and perfume, whatever, the line. Then we got to find somebody who looks like they don't work out and is really skinny and sickly and looks like a heroin addict. Where could we find somebody that looks that way? Where can we find some? Oh, there it is, right there. He is, wearing the red shirt. He could totally.
We don't have to look far.
He could take his shirt off, and then he could do this. He could just be like this. You know how they always look?
Yeah.
They're always like their mouth open, like they're like.
And like keep that perfect balance where they're like.
I'm too handsome and
There you go, Sean Glover, Midnight Wolf. We're gonna have to go back. We're gonna have to go back, and we're gonna have to look at the chat. So we could, folks, if you have a name, I'm not joking. We need some. Another one I thought about was Cerberus.
Yeah.
And I thought about Fenrir. So we thought about coming up with three, at most to start off with. We were going to launch like maybe 2 or 3 male, 2 or 3 female. So if you have a name and you want to throw it out there as a possible whatever, just put it out there on the comment section of the show. Can you get me one? Yeah, please. Anubis, yeah, okay, yeah. You use it, and then the sumbitch comes behind you, and he's like, "I'm here." Like, no, thank you, no, thank you.
Go open the box.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want him or Sobek hanging out. We're good. We're good with the demonic Egyptian. Whatever.
I love that. What are you wearing? Oh, that's just death.
It just smells like rot. We used garbage, hot garbage, straight from raccoons' mouths. What is that? Oh, show them.
What?
Look at Martis is such a sweet kitty, dude.
Yeah.
Except when he freaking clawed me earlier with his.
He got
back
me
claw.
too.
Yeah. Oof. He's a little freaked out, you know.
Yeah,
Why am I up here? What's going on? Like, there you go, steampunk wolf. It brings out the beast in you. And you can do a little commercial. And now that we got a guy that could actually do this, he could do that. He could make a video. We're going to make videos for the songs. It's going to be really cool. But he could do that, and it could be like, you know, a werewolf running through the woods, right? And it's like, wolf, it brings out the beast in you, you know?
I was...
like,
oh, you can go ahead and finish first.
no, go ahead. You interrupted. That's fine.
I was just going to mention what I thought was a good perfume name, or was a Skunk Ape Swamp Ass.
Why does it have two names?
No, it's just one name.
One of them needs to be Skunk Ape, and the other one needs to be Swamp Ass.
There you go.
We gotta have two.
It's the he-she collection.
What is it called? The
they-them collection.
Yeah, they-them.
The Don't Tell Me My Pronouns by Estee Bitcher. You know, between male and female is confusion by Estee Bullshit. How about if you take the unisex and take it to another level, right? And it just smells like the worst elements of a man and a woman.
Yeah, and then we could call it straight jacket. Asylum.
That was winning. You got that quick?
Or nut house. Looney bin.
But seriously though, we are going to launch, and people are going to say I'm not being honest. The only reason we haven't mass produced the board game is because it's going to cost me $13,000 to get started, and I have to practically build part of the house, remodel it, whatever. It'll be really nice once it's done, but it's going to cost us a lot of money. And if I'm going to do the board game, I'm going to get the camera equipment first. But all that depends on, you know, getting views and things like that for the show so we can afford it, because I can't use my other businesses to keep propping it up. You know what I mean? I gotta, at some point, the show has to stand on its own, and it's getting there. It's getting there. I could do like some people and cheat, buy some views and some subs and some comments and some likes and use AI and those the stories, whatever. But I'm not about that. So any questions you have, go ahead and put them in all caps so we can address them. If you got questions.
Katrina balls and Dogman dingleberries.
We should talk about that on Rumble. Scott, come up with some messed up.
Scott Taylor said Wolfsbane. That actually doesn't sound...
Wolfsbane is good. Put this in the comments section.
Yeah.
Yeah, Siren's Call
We'll
is
go back
another
and
good
read
one.
it. If we use your name that you thought up or whatever, we'll send you something. We'll send you a free bottle and a swag bag. But Siren's Call, Ace has said, we had already thought that one, but that's one that we definitely are probably going to use. Is Siren. Me and Nelly came up with that one.
What was the one you said? Like Fey Dust or something? Or Fairy Dust?
Fairy dust.
I wouldn't put something like that on my body.
Or
I just wouldn't.
I mean,
either that or like Fey Mist or something
yeah,
like that.
Fey.
Funky Witches Brew. Oh, man. They were like, I told you he was satanic.
Yeah. Beast mode is clever, but it's got to be like cryptid related, and I mean like the connotation with beast mode is like an athlete or like someone straining themselves, pushing themselves to the limit.
Jim Bob says, Josh, have you gotten any emails from those vampire LARPers lately? Is that what you think they are? That they're LARPing? Because I don't think that's what they are. You know, unless I don't even want to. I don't want to be too. Vampire Tears. There you go.
Rake and Shake.
Rake and Shake. Christian, any Monito stories? Christian, are you the one that gave me the story from the gym? Or you were at the gym? Is that you? Are you the same one? Silver Bullet. That's another one I thought about, John.
Oh, that's actually.
Yeah, that sounds
I
cool.
thought about Silver
That sounds
Bullet
cool.
and then putting like a werewolf on there. Between death, dismemberment, and shape-shifting. Silver Bullet. It just shows a dead werewolf. I thought about Banshee.
Yeah.
So Siren and Banshee. They're female. Oh, there Smurfy said instead of Banshee, Bansheet. We got to come up with something, though, that's not too offensive.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm not trying to set the world on fire and make everybody go out and buy it and be like the...
Instead of
I'm not trying to
Banshee,
compete with, Hugo Boss. I'm just, I just thought it'd be something cool for my audience.
And we also wear clothes.
Yeah, and we wear colognes a lot.
And it'd be cool to have our own.
We know two people who have their own line. One is a guy named Burkan, the other one's a guy named Alan. And they have their own whatever. And they were the ones telling us about this. So, well, Alan hasn't pulled the trigger on his yet, but he's telling us how to do it, how he's doing it. And Burkan has, what's it called?
Fifth Scent?
Fifth Scent. That's what it's called.
Oh, Phantom is another good name.
Phantom.
Pepe Le Wolf.
Anyway, we'll get to it. So, two and a half hours in. If you have any questions, like I said, let's talk about the business at hand here. Midnight Dream, that's a good one too. City of Night. What about that? I thought it would be cool to use, the names of stuff from
Our shows.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sixth Sense. Oh, that's a good one.
I was looking at that one too.
So we got some names out for the female colognes or for the female
Possession.
perfumes too. So, all right, we got off track a little bit there, but that's, this show is what we do. We talk about all kinds of stuff. What do you guys think about what we talked about earlier?
You know what I'm curious about?
Go ahead.
This is have to do with what we talked about earlier. You know how we have all these different stories of people driving and they either there's a ghost involved, but in each of those stories you'll have one where they either hit the ghost and it was a physical, and then it bounced off, or it goes over the top, or someone just goes right through it, or it just disappears, or they hit it and then it just disappears. What are the rules of that? How is it the way someone dies?
Well, it's just how solid they are, obviously. But I think that what happens is, okay, I've had OBEs, and I have been in this, I believe, an intermediate state where you kind of go to a wall and you kind of bounce off of it, and then you have to kind of get momentum and go through it. I don't know what that is. But then if you go to another state where I've talked about this, I think I just talked about it on a Saturday show, where you're like a ball of light. I think it was last Saturday, not this Saturday, last Saturday. And you're just like a ball of light and you can see in all directions. Or maybe it was a Friday show. Weren't we talking about that?
I think so.
But yeah, I think that it depends on the state of being that you're in.
Do you think it might be if someone, if they've been a spirit for longer, that they lose control over the ability to make themselves physical?
Well, eventually you won't have, I believe this, if you're in a purgatory type state. Purgatory is not a place, it's a state of being. And I believe that if you're in that state, I believe that you will eventually, you won't have a body.
Yeah.
You won't look like because the avatar is not needed. You're not needed to be, if you were to go back and visit somebody that you knew in your life, you might need to look like the person you once were, but you're not really that person anymore, because Jesus tells us Like he got aggravated with the disciples because they were talking about what's going to happen to our wives when we die. And he's like, you're not getting what I'm telling you. You're not married in heaven. You're not the same in heaven, and in that realm, and in that other side, there's no longer. Now, I think what ends up happening though is some people cling to this world, this life, and they don't move forward. Mm-hmm. And I think that really does happen. My opinion. If you want to argue and don't believe me. But I've just seen too much, read too much, and I've had too many encounters, stories that have been given to me about this kind of stuff. And I believe that this is why it's important to know about all this stuff, Ghosts and werewolves go hand in hand because werewolves make them. I'm not joking. I mean, that's the premise, behind
death. I would believe
do what?
It. It's a violent, traumatic death. I would believe it.
Absolutely. But, look at American Werewolf in London, where he had the ghouls kind of following him around. Mm-hmm. I asked Gerald about that, and he said that he personally had not seen, he had seen a couple spirits, but he knew a guy who had the second sight before he became what he was. And he said that dude, who was a Hispanic dude, and in fact, when we interviewed Carlos, or Carlito as he goes by, we're going to talk about his encounter too. We have it all ready to go. We just have other things to do. You got to understand something. We have the stories in place, that are going to be told like a month from now, that I've already worked on, and we're just going to have to go in and peel back the onion. But sometimes you have to go back and message the people and say, hey, is there, let's finish. There's something else we need to talk about, because they'll tell you, hey, and this is kind of embarrassing sometimes. Like, I called somebody the other day and she was like asking me why I was like, can you give me the rest of the story, because you were on the lake and you didn't tell me. And she was like, what? And I was like, this is Danielle, right? And she's like, no, this is Dana. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I was like, she goes, oh, but why I got you on the phone? Like, she's like, let me, and I'm like, and I don't be rude, but I was like, look, I got to get in touch with this other person, but I would love to hear, what you have to say. Then it was like a week-long texting until I could get back in touch with her. And now you guys know, just about every day you wake up, I'm in that study on the phone with somebody, or I'm
all the time
texting, emailing.
Or you would just finish.
Or I just finished, or I was about to start, or something. It's 24/7 almost. Then there's people that are night owls, and those are the easiest ones, because I can do my patrol driving around talking to the person.
Well, also, I
and
mean,
I don't have to write everything down like a lot of people either.
Internationally, I mean, we receive emails and calls from all over the world.
Oh my gosh, dude! Trying to talk to those guys from Scotland.
I made a mistake of taking a call.
They speak English, but it's like,
it's barely English.
Yeah, they're like, someone in the tree, someone else ate my ass. Or, what? What happened? A tree ate your ass? What the hell? That's horrible. I said I said, but it's my tree, and my God, somebody, my God, MacGyver. I'm like, what?
And then they have like slang that's like, they don't even use English words for their certain idioms. Like they have one where they go, "I didn't ken," and I don't know what that means, but like it means something very basic, but it's not English at all.
Yeah.
But it means something specific in English. I didn't ken.
They talking fast forward, and I can't handle it.
They're talking fast forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we were talking about the Bear King earlier. Mm-hmm. And I had a guy, Scott, Scott. I call him McDonald's.
Yeah.
It's McDougal. But so he's been a friend of ours for years. He's from the old days, my friend Scott. And we call him McDonald's because he hates being called that. And he says that America brought their McDonald's. It's not even an Irish or whatever.
Oh, there we go. I didn't ken means I don't know.
Okay. So then when he's talking to me, and if he's had a couple drinks, and he'll call me up and he'll start talking to me, and he lives up in Wisconsin now, and I don't know what the hell he's saying. And he's probably watching this going, "Get something of a bitch." But sometimes, Scott, I just agree with you because I know, yeah, right, yeah, and then I'm like, did I just agree to? Did I I didn't sell my soul, did I? What did I just agree to? I think I understood what you said. And he's like, no, the house, when you go to, you wouldn't have a car. This is all the mortgage. How much is a car payment? I mean, I don't do in the minute kiss in the mirror.
Yeah, they're walking terms of services.
And I am like, and I'm just like, yeah, I would have done the same thing. He's like, oh, there's money. You could have. I guess. I don't know. What am I agreeing to? I don't know. I mean, it could be anything. You don't know what the hell he's talking about. Walking around the grocery store, and I'm just like, yeah, kiwi fruit is better than cantaloupe. I don't like cantaloupe. What are you talking about, lad? Then he talks normal for a second. Oh, okay, because you were speaking another language a minute ago. Was that hyper Gaelic? Because I don't know what the hell you just said.
Well, to be fair.
But I've known Scott forever, and it's usually just when he's drunk. I can't.
The Cajun accent is also ridiculous.
The Cajun, yeah, they're like, yeah. That's why people think it's called the Rougarou, because Rougarou, they want that down, that Rougarou. You know what?
Yeah, it's basically like the pigeon version of French.
Like, good grief, man. So here we go. Speaking of Cajun, I was talking about the Lougarou the other day to somebody, and they had no clue what that was. And that was a red flag for me, because they were talking about being from Louisiana, being born and raised in Louisiana, and they did not know what the Lougarou was. Mm-hmm. I thought that was weird. And I said, Lake Charles, from Lake Charles. So maybe because it is a little further, western Louisiana, I said, are you sure you never heard of it? And they said, no, I've never heard of anything like that. And then they proceeded to tell me a dogman story. Mm-hmm. And I said, but you were born and raised in Lake Charles. Yes. Never heard of the Lougarou. And your grandpa's Cajun. Yes. Okay. How's that possible? And then the next day they were like, well, my grandmother and grandfather told me exactly what that was. But again, this person was only like 25. And, I don't know. It was, how do you dodge it that long when you not know? But you saw something run across a road that looked like a werewolf. And it was carrying a dead raccoon, in its clutches. And you saw this. And it's kind of hard, to fathom that. But then we're in Kemah, and we're at the carnival, mm-hmm. And me and Nellie were sitting there and talking, and there was a bartender, and she was sitting there telling us about the Lougarou, and it was that night that we went and we saw those 3 alligators. Remember, we went over that little bridge, and Nellie's like, what is that? And there's these 3 sets of eyes. Yeah. And she's like, what is that? And it was right there. Like, I mean, you could throw, like, Tony, you weren't with us that time. Yeah. But you could, like, throw a rock like this, and you could hit them. Mm-hmm. And then one of them came up, and she goes, that's an alligator. I said, those are gators. It's just right there. Like, if you got out of the water probably wasn't, but, like, maybe waist deep. Mm-hmm. Not even. You got out and you walk it, they would eat your ass, dude. You'd be dead as a doornail. They were pretty good size, too, weren't they? Yeah. And so I said, those are gators. And then people's house is just right there. It's just right there. And that little canal connects it into the water, to that brackish water. And I bet it's full of bull sharks, too. And then it's just right there. But that bartender, she was telling us that she saw the Lougarou, like, literally just wading right through that water and just coming up out of it. And she was like, that canal has gators and bull sharks. And I'm just like, and that thing did not give a damn about it. Because I guess if you're some sort of subnatured monster, you don't give a shit, I read a story one time. You remember this, the Solomon Island Mysteries. Yeah. We've read, all 3 of us have read a lot of the same books of the paranormal. We have a huge library. And everybody, and I'm going to brag, I'm going to say, and this is cool. I got a shipment of books the other day from a guy. And just, anytime somebody's new book comes out, I'll get a copy. They'll send it to me or whatever. And I insist on paying, even if they offer it to me. A lot of times they'll say, hey, don't worry about it, whatever, but they want me to have it. And that's cool. And usually if they're a friend of mine, I'll order a shipment of them because I want to have them on hand to give to you guys. That's kind of how we do this, right? And so there was a book that I read that was in our library, and it was called The Solomon Island Mysteries. And one of those was interesting. A crocodile had attacked one of these Bigfoot creatures, and it was laid up on the shore. And this guy actually befriended it and helped it heal. And so the guy told the story of a half-breed Bigfoot human being that would literally eat an entire hog in one sitting. And he had like red eyes. And he looked, you remember the story? And anyway, it's in the book. It's called Solomon Island Mysteries. And it was like, that gives you a little bit of like what would happen if a crocodile came in contact with a squatch. But, you know, who knows? I covered a story when I was doing DER. A guy near a golf course claimed that a dogman was killed by an alligator. He said you would see this weird, and it wasn't a very big one, but he said this is a story that they gave us. And he said that it was like this dogman type creature, whatever, and it was wandering around on the property, and they would see it on the golf course, and then it got killed by these gators. This was a flesh and blood creature that he believed it was. But he thought it was just like something that could walk around on its hind legs. It looked like a wolf, whatever. And then a couple days later, they found the gators like tore up, disemboweled, and ripped apart. Like these dogman creatures were not too fond of what they had done to this being, whatever. Now, whether that's a true story or not, I don't know, but that's something that was given to me, several years ago. And so it was on an episode where we talked about interaction between these beings. And we have gotten story after story of them fighting with one another and fighting with reptilians. There was a story that we got, of one of these like weird reptilian-like creatures that was up a tree. And it was very similar. And I believe, and I'm not 100% sure if this is correct or not, but I think George Knapp had actually covered something like that on Coast to Coast. From the Skinwalker Ranch. It's probably something I should have asked Thomas Winter. There's Blondes and Booze right there. When he was on with Blondes and Booze on that interview we did, the guy from Skinwalker Ranch, nice guy, great interview. I enjoyed talking to him. I haven't followed up with him since then. I said I was going to, but I haven't done a lot of things because I'm very busy. But I need to talk to the guy. But there was, a story, and I remember, so we got one, and this one comes out of Florida, and it was Tampa. And so the person that was telling me this story, they said that their daughter had come forward and claimed that she had been being abducted by these reptilian-type creatures. But it started off with the Greys, of course, like it's always that. And then what ended up happening, there were these two, I want to say like, and I haven't fleshed this out yet, folks. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but from what I remember them telling me, she was saying that her daughter had been abducted, but then she goes outside, and now what often accompanies this weird stuff, there's this weirdness that happens that you can't really explain. And there was this being that was up a tree. And there were these two werewolf creatures, and they were like clawing at it and trying to get it, and it was up a palm tree. It had climbed itself all the way up to the top. And these dogmen were trying to they couldn't navigate up there. They didn't have the ability to get up the palm tree like it did. And she said it was looking down at him, and she said she looks up, and it was the ugliest little thing with yellow eyes. And then the two dogman looking creatures, she was on her deck, and they looked at her. And then they kind of looked back at him, and they were kind of debating about if they were more interested in her or it. And she was like, this weird phenomenon was going on around her house. She was seeing these yellow and green balls of light that were zipping around in the yard. Mm-hmm. And her husband, which would have been the stepdad of Morgan, her daughter that was being abducted, he was claiming that he had seen one of these wolf-like creatures fall out of one of those orbs. Mm. And he said that the yellow ones were the dogman ones, and the green ones were these reptoids. And they were fighting, constantly fighting. And then the daughter came forward and said that she was taken aboard a craft or a facility. You know how they always say that, well, I was in a craft, but then we've gotten to the bottom of some of it, that they're actually being taken to like a facility or something somewhere where they do this nefarious crap they do. And it turns out, she says that, she's like, I went aboard a craft, you know, and she's like, I saw one of these werewolf-like creatures being drug in, you know, like on a, like they had like a, you know, like a, the way they describe it, she said like a stick with like a noose around it. And these reptilians were dragging it around. And it came barreling into, like bursting into the room where she was at. And it was all like, rah, 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 you know, doing what it did. And they were like, getting to get control of it. And they took it out real quick. Like it wasn't supposed to go into that room. And she was just like, what in the hell is that? And then they took it back out and they were going down the hallway. And there was this shrieking and howling and, you know, whatever. And she said, I was scared to death. And then one of these reptoids, and these weren't the reptilians that look like full-on lizards. They had a more humanoid shape to them, and they had the little bee head thing, you know. And it told her, like in mind speak, like, it's okay, you know, don't worry about that. Just pay attention to what we're telling you. That's none of your concern. And so, you know, it'd be kind of hard to focus on the lizard talking to you when a werewolf just got brought into the room accidentally. How do you go back to being like a normal person after that? Yeah. So she had convinced herself, she was like 14 or 15 or something. She had convinced herself that this was dreams. She was having dreams. And so, well, hell yeah, you're going to tell yourself that. What the hell? You want to be effed up in the head the rest of your life? Yeah. And then she confided in she confided in her best friend at school, you know, some little shithead, and then that little shithead went and told everybody, and then they mocked her and said she was crazy. You know, thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Leah, her friend, or whatever her name was. Yeah, Leah. Yeah, stupid ass.
I'm gonna beat up my sister for you. Your sister. Just to get back at this other Leah.
Yeah, well, that was her friend's name, was Leah.
Yeah, I'll beat up my Leah to get back at this other.
And now we're going to dox her and give her school name and everything. No, we're not going to do that.
Alec, all I'm saying is every Leah I know has been a turd.
Well, I can attest to that.
Oh, yeah, you can.
No, I can. I should have known. I've dated a couple. It's like, I know Messiah when I see one. I followed a few. I think everybody's had, you know. Well, for me though, it's pretty much every name. It's like, pick a name. Probably don't like that. My aunt Linda, I told her, I was like, I dated a girl named Linda years ago, and she was as crazy as a loon. No, she really was. Get this, folks. You think this is insane? No, this chick did not eat an orange. That's crazy. I really think I dated an alien because I was like, she worked at Taco Bell, okay? Now, granted, I was like, I don't remember how old I was, 21 or so. I don't know. I was young. There was this really smoking hot girl working at the drive-thru at Taco Bell, and I'm like, what is a beautiful girl like you doing working at Taco Bell? Nobody's taking you off the market and, you know, whatever. So I don't know what kind of, you know, cheesy pickup line I gave her or whatever, you know. But anyway, we went out on a date and we went to the movie theater right there in Riverside, back when there was a theater there. And so I stopped into the H-E-B and I grabbed, I don't remember what it was. I had to grab something because it was like close to Thanksgiving. I remember that. And I had to like get some fruit or something for my aunt to make a fruit salad. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I'll bring, and I didn't have a lot of money. I'll bring the fruit or whatever, something, you know, remember what it was. And so I was like, I started, you know, peeling an orange. And I said, do you want an orange? And she grabs it out of there. Now, I'm peeling an orange, right? Like, that could be a clue that even if you're from another planet, that's how you eat it. Yeah. And she just, like, bites into it.
Oh, no.
And starts chewing it. And she's like, I'll never forget, this is weird, right? And I'm not, this is a true story. I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I'm in the parking lot at the grocery store at the HEB, and I'm like, I didn't say anything. I told my brother about this, and he was just like, "What did you do?" I was like, "I didn't say anything. I just sat there and watched her do it," which was not correct. I probably shouldn't have done that. And so I was like eating it, and I was like, and she's like, she spits it out. She's like, "This is bitter and weird." And I'm like, "Where are you from?" And
planet are you from?
Yeah,
You
she
might
was
have been
born and raised here in Austin. I'm like, "Are you joking?"
Maybe like deep underground?
I
Or
think
what?
she was like a princess that was just kicked out of her noble house.
So a couple years go by, and I worked downtown. I was working downtown, and she showed up, and she was with some guy, and I guess she had gotten with this dude, and we just went on a couple dates, and hung out, whatever. And I thought, what in the hell's wrong with this girl? And so when she wanted to come into the club, and she goes, "Hey, what's up?" And we were cordial, and I knew a guy that she had dated that told me she was a total ditz, right?
Yeah.
He told me that. And no offense to this person if she's out there or whatever, but so she comes in the club, and the guy that she was with, I see him like, kind of off. It looked like he was talking to another girl or something, and then she was just kind of sitting at the bar twiddling her thumbs, and this dude was like this, we had a cigarette machine, and the girl was like right there, and he was like talking to her, and I'm like, she's got to see this guy doing that. Well, I'm like, what's wrong with this girl, man? So anyways, I walked up and I was like, "Hey, how have you been? I haven't seen you in a while. It's been a while." And he said, "Yeah. Have you doing good?" I said, "Yeah, I'm running this club, whatever." And I wanted to ask her so bad, like, because I didn't ask the question, like, about the orange. And to this day, I don't know why I didn't. I don't know why I didn't say anything. It's a weird thing. It wasn't like I was enjoying her eating the orange incorrectly, but I was just like, and so at that moment I walked off. I told my brother, I said, "You remember the orange girl?" Because that's what I called her. My brother said, I said, "That's her." And he's like, so if I remember correctly, he went up to her, and my brother hits on every woman that walks the earth. That he hit on her, and she was like, "I'm with him," and he's over there like kissing on some other girl, like he's right there doing something, And it was just weird. And so I asked him, I was like, "Did you ask her about the orange?" And he's like, "Yeah." "What did she say?" And he goes, "She just shrugged her shoulders." And I was like, "That's it?" But then again, D was probably 10 sheets to the wind too, that he didn't hear what she said. So loud in there. So to this day, I don't know why she did it, because I didn't ask. I should have. I've never seen anybody do that before. I mean, I can understand if it's a fruit that you don't know, like if, okay, so there's
Like dragon fruit.
or sour sop or something.
Yeah.
You've never, yeah.
Durian. I would have even understood. But an orange?
Yeah, an orange is pretty common fruit, right? Across the world. I mean, there's some fruits that we have cultivated, that everybody knows what the hell they are.
But even if you didn't, I think there are some things that even if you just look at, you'd be like, "Oh, maybe I'm supposed to do it a certain way." And if you bite into it and it doesn't taste good, maybe you're not supposed to bite into it.
Yeah.
I would have been like, "Okay, that didn't sound right, so maybe you..."
But dude, I'm sitting there, I was peeling this orange myself. And it was like, if I remember correctly, it wasn't Thanksgiving. I think it was close to Easter or something. And you know how Tia Jovita always made fruit salad.
Yeah.
And I remember I wanted to help. I was like, "Well, what can I bring?" At that age, I was probably not really giving a crap. I probably didn't even. I probably wanted her to say nothing. Don't worry about it. But she told me, "Hey, bring some fruit. I'll make the fruit salad." And so I think it was near Easter, actually. I can't remember what time of year it was. I just remember that happening in the parking lot, and I was like, "What in the hell is wrong with this person, dude? You're gonna eat."
It's like cutting open an avocado, swallowing the pit, and throwing the rest away. It's ridiculous.
Maybe she grew up in an orphanage and they never had anything but porridge.
I really like this this comment by Cowboy. Wolf's dating litmus tests: must love animals and know how to eat an orange.
Exactly. Well, it's got to be more than that.
I mean, there shouldn't be much more.
And I don't date anymore.
That's a good jumping off
I'm
point.
married. Huh?
That's a good jumping off point.
Exactly.
That's a bare minimum.
Anyways, I think my wife would have something to say about me dating these days. Okay, she's gonna be like, I don't think that's gonna happen. Why? Because I'll kill you. No, she's not gonna do it. She would just be like, bye, see ya. You know, Nellie's not gonna put up with that, nor would she. Should she? You know, honey, I'm dating this woman, and before you get all freaked out, she doesn't know how to eat an orange. She's like, let's go back. Let's rewind a little bit. You're dating a woman.
Focusing on the wrong thing.
I think Nelly.
I meant dated a woman.
I think even Nelly would sit
23
there
years ago.
and watch someone incorrectly eat an orange first before she got onto you.
Yeah. Yeah, ever since then, I was like, eat this orange. And I watched to see if they ate it correctly. Very weird. I don't know. Anyways, folks, okay, so we're going to do the giveaway. If your name is in green, that means that you're a member. And if you're a member, you can win one of these fabulous prizes.
Do you want me to bring the books in?
No, we just, it'll be a random book from a random author. Right? Mm-hmm. So, but it won't be me. All right, there'll be other authors. So just a preface to make sure you understand that right there. Yeah, 86, please don't do that. No, let's not go there. All right, so I guess you want to go first, Tony, since you haven't been here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we can do that. I'll let
I'm going to change the chat to members only.
Yeah, I'm going to let Anthony
Why?
do
You
that.
can just pick somebody in green. You don't need to change it to members only.
Because it makes it easier.
It's just right there. If your name is in green, just say
if you're a member, go ahead and just comment saying
you've
pick
never
me.
won anything.
Yep, just say pick me, want something. We'll let it fill up a little more before I choose.
What happened?
I got my knee.
Oh, dang.
I'm all right.
Paula Campbell says, "Pick me." Paula,
I was gonna pick Mystical
you're a
Wonderland.
member, but have you ever won anything? Is somebody who hasn't won anything yet? Pick me. I never win. Okay, Mystical Wonderland. You've never won.
Yep, that's who I chose.
You chose her. Him? Is it him or her? What are your pronouns?
Day one.
Yeah. Pronouns are Z and Zer.
My Asian pronouns are hi and ya.
Pick me. I never win. Okay, so Mystical Wonderland, you've been picked. Hey, Mystical Wonderland.
It's a her.
How?
Or she's a her.
So, okay, so what you do is you see where it says up at the top up here, it says send stories to Josh Turner at PRTpodcast.com. That's where you got to do. So you send me the information and we'll, one of us nice people will get your email. Oh, Tito, that was nice of you, gifting the memberships to people.
Heck yeah, Tito. Oh, and Sugar Britches, thank you for doing the same thing earlier on in the show.
Yeah.
Thanks for just being the greatest mod ever.
Yeah.
Sugar and
It's always on point.
so is Spunky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know about this Madeline chick. She's kind of,
I don't know.
I don't know. No bueno, dude. I don't know.
I just can't trust anyone who can't ride on any rides at a roller coaster.
That's so mean. Maddie, don't take that crap. Don't take that crap. Take some karate and beat him up.
Oh no, my ankles.
Oh, you keep it up. Nellie's gonna smack you because she's short and Maddie's like her best friend. So you better watch it. So okay, so Anthony, your turn. I guess Anthony will pick somebody.
So, how many are we doing?
We're doing three.
Three?
So one each.
Okay. So let's scroll back to everyone who said
Hey,
they haven't
Philip.
won.
Philip Barnes, nice guy.
There was somebody. Said that I never won anything yet. Okay, I'm gonna pick Lakota Angel. She says she's never won anything yet, and she's always here with us during the live streams.
Mm-hmm.
You think I don't notice? I notice. We notice. But you gotta respond in the live chat, so like I know that you know that you won.
I think you might be right, Liberty.
There it is. Okay, yeah. So the the email that's scrolling at the top of the screen above Wolf's head. You just got to send your name and mailing information to there, and then we'll get your stuff mailed out. And that goes for all the winners.
It's right up there.
Mm-hmm.
Move over my head. Oh, Elmo.
Hey Missy, we just sent a bunch of stuff out, so it might still be on the way.
Did she win something before?
She said she hasn't got. I haven't got my package yet. Does that technically mean
There were 2 people who didn't give their full information. There was, and then there was one on that one giveaway. They didn't give us, and they never gave us their information at all because there should have been 3, and there was just 2. So if you haven't given us your information, or if you haven't gotten a package, wait a little bit, and if it hasn't happened, then we will.
Yeah, just resend your information.
Also, we've had this a few times where people have had their packages stolen. It's actually happened, and one they showed us that it had been reported stolen, so we gave them another one. And then one got returned, and then they never tried to get it. I don't know what the heck was going on. Okay, am I up? Here we go. All right.
Yeah.
So if you're in green, Missy, we'll give it another week, okay? And if it hasn't happened, then we'll send you something else. Don't be stalking. You know what? If I'm stalking, I don't know where I got the time, and it must be my clone because I don't have time to barely answer emails. And there's 1,000 people who can attest that I have not been able to talk to them.
Well, 86. I know that he won before, but he's in Australia, so we have to have someone ship his prize to him. Because it is so expensive for us to ship from here to Australia.
What we'll do if you win and you're in Australia, and I keep forgetting, I need to talk to Paul Wallace, so I can try to get him to send him something. Paul's a good friend of mine, and we have Paul Sinclair and Deborah Hatswell who can give you something if you're in the UK.
Yeah.
And it's your choice which one, okay? But if you're in Australia, for now, we will just send you the money, and you can buy one of my books on Amazon, or you can use the money to buy someone else's book. You can do whatever you want with it. We'll just send you a cash prize, and you can actually use it to buy something from the PRT store, but you're not obligated to. It's yours. You do what you want.
Yeah, we'll send you money, 86, not the other way around.
Yeah.
So Tennessee Ridge Runner 2, and then there was somebody else up here that had said they hadn't won. Calico Jack is still waiting on a shirt. Did we send something to Jack?
Yeah, I remember we
mailed his
stuff.
Uh-oh. That's been a while. Jack, you might want to check because that got mailed off on the last run we did, which was probably almost 2 weeks ago. Because everybody was posting there. And do us a favor, post what you won on the Paranormal Roundtable group on Facebook, because and that also helps me kind of keep track of who got, whatever. There were 2 people who said they hadn't won. Steampunk, you've never won. Tiffany Collins says she's never won. This thing just jumped all of a sudden. Okay. Who else? Now my brother shows up. We were just talking crap about you. D, pack your stuff up and get ready to come home because you're now done with your duty over there.
I'm coming back, soldier.
We're bringing you back, soldier. You've done your job. Did it well.
He was out there like dances with wolves.
He was. And he was getting so frustrated with people. I felt bad. We'll just call him Wolf's brother. Like Shane's brother.
Yeah.
I just want to be called his brother. But he also wanted me to call Shane by his real name, which would be his first name. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do because Shane asked me not to.
Just give me your first name if
He's
you
like,
want me to do all
who are you
this.
going to listen to, me or him? I said him. Because like, he's got the same situation as me. He's got a brother who doesn't like to listen to him.
Who's Shane? Who's old? His brother's older than him?
Shane's older. Shane's like 2 years old. My brother's older than me, so he thinks because of that, he's supposed to tell me what to do. Look, I know you own the company, but go F yourself. I'm like, I don't think I can do that. Sorry, you're fired. So I have a choice to make here, and I don't want to be the one to make it because then somebody's going to be left out. So,
Well, D's here. How about we let him choose?
yeah, hey, D, since you're here,
Go through the
why
green
don't
messages.
you choose washes with dawn and rainwater? Well, if you lived in Oklahoma, you could watch Dances with Wolves and be considered native. So I'm more native than most of the people in that state, and I don't get anything for it. So y'all pander to D. Ask D to pick one of you. If you haven't won, say it again because the thing was moving. I didn't want to pick somebody and then leave somebody out. But we can't pick too many people because we still have people saying they haven't gotten their stuff.
So I've picked Wonderland, and who did you pick, Anthony?
Lakota Angel.
Lakota Angel. So those two don't pick, D.
Hey, James Lewis. James has been around for a long time. Steampunk 369 is trying to. So Steampunk D picked Diana Hernandez.
She's not a member.
She's not a member?
No. It's
Okay.
the people in green, D.
Okay, she says I've never won. I'm sorry, Diana. I'd love to give something to everybody. We do this for the members because we don't have anything, like we don't have any.
Yeah, we don't
have members only content like
Yeah.
a lot of these other shows. They do have members only content, but we have vowed to never put anything behind a paywall.
If we're making content, we're gonna give it to you for free.
And I mean, we're not up here asking for donations or anything. We barely got anything tonight in donations, and I'm not complaining. I'm not doing the show for that reason. I mean, it helps the show, but at the end of the day, this isn't what it's about. So, what we do this so because people will buy a membership, and you got to give them something. So we do the giveaway, and we can keep the show free. In green, yes, D.
Oh, good job, Quantum Potential. Mike.
Oh, don't you love it, Quantum, when you win the free sample? Or you could do like my brother and just go and eat the whole tray like he won. One time, we went to Sam's. We have a membership at Costco and Sam's because you can get certain things at one you can't get at the other. So we have memberships at both. And so my brother, he has a Sam's card and you have the Costco one, right, Anthony?
Yeah.
So we're interchangeable. We can, as a group, use them, whatever. It's a smart move. So my brother goes into the Sam's with Squid, him and Squid, who's one of my best friends. And they decide to just eat all of the samples. This lady had the little pig in the blanket things. Mm-hmm. There's a whole tray of them, and Dee just starts eating them all. And she's like, oh my. It's just... Then there was another one with taquitos. And so he literally went and ate both trays. Me and Squid each had a bite, and Dee ate the whole thing at two different spots.
I forget what
With no shame, he doesn't care.
I forget which mall I was working at, but it was just just go at a mall and wait for them to close and then be there overnight. And then I would remember what I would do is I would just go and walk back and forth in front of the food court because they would always have those guys out with the trays. And I would do that before shift, before the mall closes, just walking back and forth in the food court, just grabbing the free samples of stuff and eating it.
At Lakeline?
I don't know if it was Lakeland or Barton, but I remember just doing that like over and over again.
Oh, when you were doing
no, it was Lakeland because I was
were
at
you working for us?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was the Lego place, I think.
Why would you do that?
I don't know. I
Were
think
you hungry?
it wasn't like it was just more like I was
he's
bored.
never hungry.
I'm never
He doesn't
hungry. It's
eat.
not like I was.
That's why you're so skinny.
But I was just
He
walking
just wanted
around.
the thrill of getting something free.
I just didn't want to pay. It was the criminal in me.
Oh my gosh. Do you remember when Scorpio was working at the Lakeline and he worked there for 2 days and didn't know that they were filming The Walking Dead there?
Yeah.
He goes, they're filming Scorpions. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it's a movie called Scorpions. He goes, yeah.
Dude, that was the most ridiculous phone conversation ever. Because we were like asking him like, what are they filming there? He's like,
Scorpions.
I don't know. They're filming some show called Scorpions. Like
2 days he was there. By the third day, I went
like
in and I asked.
the props of
Met the director of the show.
yeah, like the props of all the zombie corpses and like all over the floor. Like they don't that doesn't give you any
Inclination
context.
of what it was.
doesn't make you realize they're filming Fear the Walking Dead right here.
I said, dude, that's the name of the episode, dude. I'm like, what, And D said Stone. He's talking about you. Barbara Blendy, thank you for that donation, Barbara. We appreciate that.
He might have been in one of the episodes, just in the back, just sitting there.
Asleep.
Yeah.
He's his video game.
They were like, "Oh wow, look at that corpse over there." Oh wait a minute.
Dude, that zombie is hideous.
Yeah.
Jeez, he's like, that zombie looks
Hey,
terrible.
they're even making these zombie props smell bad.
Scorp's going to be so mad.
They're going above and beyond. That's
He's
not
probably
necessary.
asleep right now. His shift don't start till midnight.
Oh, D picked Mike. I don't
who?
Mike
Hunt.
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 You got to make
Michael
sure there's
Hunt.
a space there.
Let's call him Michael Hunt.
Michael Hunt.
So, okay, so he picked Michael Hunt. So Mike, Mystical Wonderland, and what's the other one?
Lakota Angel.
Lakota Angel. Let's get it rolling here. Thank you. And then Missy says she emailed us. Okay, so what we're going to do, I guess with Missy, I don't know, we're just going to have to give her another prize, I guess. Missy,
Yeah, because I saw your emails, Missy. Like I think you sent like 2 or 3 of them, and then as I saw your emails, and
We just said to
we
hell with you. We didn't
mailed
care.
we mailed your stuff off. It's weird. That
We
you-
actually
Well,
faxed
that's
them.
weird because we mailed hers off and Jack's. And so what happened?
I don't know.
Well, then we need to talk to Postal Annex and get some, and this is becoming an issue because it didn't happen when what's his name owned it. So maybe we need to talk to them.
Make sure your addresses are
I may have to cancel my PO box there and go somewhere else.
Make sure your
They're
drop
dealing
ship
with
with
says,
Daniel.
yeah.
Make sure your addresses are your mailing addresses. I mean, I think that might be an issue too. Is that maybe people aren't sending the addresses correctly, so it's not being sent to the right
Yeah.
spot. It might be sent to the building instead of the actual apartment.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mr. Hunt, we'll use that.
Yeah.
So everybody who didn't win, though, I mean, don't. And Two Shadows, thank you for that donation. Appreciate that. Don't despair. Steampunk and Kate, Tiffany, you guys will remember next week. We'll do this again. We're doing this every Sunday in perpetuity. We're just gonna keep doing it. We may have to slow it down in July because we're going to be in the middle of moving toward the end of July. We're going to we're already packing everything, and our house is a disaster right now. There's boxes everywhere, and there's just so but we may have to not do it maybe for a week or two, something, who knows. But I'm pretty sure we're just going to keep doing it every Sunday.
Yeah.
We have a ton of merch that we're going to give away. And we're building a channel, well, not a channel,
website.
not a show, but but a channel, but like a channel that we're going to use to ship stuff. And I already talked to Lyle Blackburn about it, and several other authors and podcasters, YouTubers, and we're going to put it all on one page, to where you can go one-stop shop and you can buy all of our products in one place. And then Seven Clay for Josh Sprague, he's going to be the one that ships it. So, other than the books, it's just going to be clothing, keychains. If you want a Beast of Boggy Creek, say you want a Falcon Monster, whatever, Lyle Blackburn, you can have it screen printed onto a shirt or a mug or a keychain. or a tumbler, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, you may not want a PRT. You might want to wear a Blondes Boost. I want to do this for, and I'm not making a dime off of that. It's just whatever you buy from us. I want to do this for the community. I want to bring us together. I don't care what people say. They keep talking trash and they don't, who gives a crap? They don't even entertain it. They don't know what they're talking about, okay? I'm going to bring people together like I did at the conferences, and it's going to be, you know, it's going to be big. We're going to do it like we did it before. We're going to bring people together. And so you may not want one of ours. You might want something else.
Also, here there, Dylan, your name was one of them that we got together, and we got your information from the email. We shipped your stuff. If you haven't got it yet, then that's a problem. If you wouldn't mind sending your information again, just so it's at the top of our email.
We need to do is talk to the guys at Postal Annex and figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell them, look, I've been shipping with them for almost 4 years.
Yeah.
And the new owner is a new owner now, and what's going on? Because I didn't get any emails saying that their stuff had been delivered. Where under what's his face, Kevin, I always did, and now this other guy's there, and I'm not going to bag on him because I don't know, but I'm going to have a talk with him and say, look, dude. So that'll be a conversation I have tomorrow. And if I have to go up there, well, I'm not going to be too happy. I have to go up there and deal with this because I don't have time for it. Well, I do. I'm going to make time for my listeners. But the fact that I got to do it in the middle of everything else I'm going through, it's going to piss me off. Samuel Lim says, are you glad to be out of that house? We're not out of the house yet, but we need to be.
We are going to be glad, though.
We're going to be glad. It's just, it's not comfortable. I don't feel at home there. I don't feel at ease there.
It's just, I don't know about how you guys feel. I just feel kind of like too spaced out, like separated. It just, I don't like that.
Yeah, I mean,
like that's what I meant when I said like I like that. You know, at the new house, our rooms are kind of closer. I mean, it's not really that big of a difference, but it kind of is. I mean, cause
yeah, like we're right next door to each other.
we're literally right next door. So
It's going to be weird, though, because we're going to be on the 3rd floor.
Yeah.
And y'all are
that's
going to
gonna
be on the 1st floor.
the
So
only
it's
weird
going to be,
part.
that's the weird thing about the way the house is built.
Well, what's nice is that you can just go out on the balcony and call for us.
How am I going to do that?
Just go.
Hey!
Yeah.
Hey! And y'all are like, the
Let's go
door's closed. You're not going to hear it.
Or you can like
Rapunzel, throw down
you
your
can put
hair.
like a little bell on a string and hang it over the balcony, which like comes down to my door and just like ring it whenever.
Yeah. Yes, and please do that. Sugar Bitches just posted on there something weird or strange, whatever. Yeah, Ace, that's a good idea. We'll put an intercom system in there. Yeah, Jake S. He's right. There was a scientist that wanted to make tiger people. That's a weird, and it's like just because I can type thing. It's just a weird thing. That's a weird deal. All right, so folks, we're going to head out. Thank you for tuning in to Paranormal Roundtable. Please like and subscribe and be back on Tuesday night. I'll be back on Tuesday night, and I'll be doing an hour to 2 hour show either at 6 or 7 o'clock, depending on how much time I have. And, yeah, we'll see you then. Good night. Oh, wait, where's the music?